Hello everyone, welcome to our audiobook channel. If you enjoy this story or want to hear more exciting content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us improve and bring even more captivating stories. Enjoy listening. Chapter 1. The Witch Doctor's Rebirth. In the state of Kingyun, a quiet village of Benruo, and outside the Bai family home. Oh no. I beg you, please don't. A pitiful scream pierced through the quiet courtyard and disturbed the tranquil setting. The scream came from a young girl dressed in drab clothing. Her hands were bound, as a woman in an elaborate gown towered over her with a blade in hand. The young girl's legs were then slashed open. No. The girl's pale skin had split open and blood sputtered out from the wound. Her cries fell on deaf ears as the blade tore mercilessly through the girl's arm. With her arms and legs disabled, she was cut off from her mystic power. Despair clouded the girl's eyes, once bright and full of life, and she closed them. This is your last warning. Where is the scripture of Bai? The woman stood before the young girl, the tip of her blade caressing the young girl's unblemished face. A sharp pang of jealousy rose in the woman and her grip on the sword tightened. With a flick of her wrist, a deep cut tore the young girl's face open. Enough, shouted a well-dressed man who was observing from the sidelines. The disfigured girl turned to the source of the voice. It was her fiancé. The young man walked over to the girl and gently cupped her bloodied face. Little yet, show us your power. Show that you have inherited the scripture of Bai and you'll be my beloved fiancé once more. The young girl huffed as a sardonic smile graced her face. This offended Qing Xiantian and he retracted his hand. He gave the girl a pitiful look and clapped his hands. Suit yourself, you pig-headed girl. At the sound of his clap, a crowd of filthy beggars rushed into the courtyard. They made a beeline for the young girl who sprawled on the floor. You, what are you doing? Fear gripped the young girl when the beggars surrounded her. Someone cooed, tisk tisk, you look delicious. He, who knew one could find a girl with such delicate skin in the mountains of Benruo village? Here I thought it would be a fat and ugly farmer's wife. A bit disfigured, but at least she has a good body. Ha ha ha. From the men's crude words and cruder gestures, the young girl had an inkling about their intentions. She shrieked loudly at her fiancé, Qing Xiantian. You shameful bastard. I'm your fiancé, how could you? Brother Tian, don't back down. Remember, she has been lying to you for the past 10 years, the woman in fine clothes said as she clung to Qing Suanation's arm. Qing Xiantian gave no response, but he paid close attention to the scene at play. He was hoping it would trigger the young girl's abilities and prove her to be the heir of the scripture of Bai. However, Qing Xiantian, I'll haunt you even when I'm a ghost. The agonizing scream came from the center of the crowd. It was followed by a commotion. F***ck. She bit her tongue and killed herself. What the F***ck? I was just starting to feel it. The news of the girl's demise reached Qing Xiantian. He turned to the well-dressed woman and said, let's leave. Moments after the couple left, the young girl who bled to death suddenly opened her eyes. Someone in the crowd spoke. I can't stand it. I'll make do with a warm corpse. I want to go too. It's not every day we get a nice body like this. So fair and supple. There were about 5 beggars who wanted to have a go with the young girl's corpse. They then noticed the young girl's eyes were open. No, it's a zombie. F***ck. FCK. In a split second, the girl, who previously had no energy to fight against her assailants, sat up. She lunged at the men and tore out their throats with her teeth. Blood sprayed from the open wounds like a fountain. The men twitched and fumbled around before falling to the ground, dead. What? The remaining crowd were horrified by the turn of events and turned tails to run. It's a zombie. Zombie. A man-eater. Soon, silence fell upon the Bai family's courtyard as the stench of blood permeated in the air. Ah, it stinks. The girl who had just killed 5 men with her teeth spat on the ground. Weakness took over her body and she fell back down, splashing into a puddle of blood. After a quick survey of her condition, she concluded several meridians in her body were severed. She sighed and closed her eyes as she parsed through foreign memories that invaded her mind. Bai Ye was 15 years old then. She lived with her grandfather, Bai Zhan, in Benruo village, Tongzi County. They had relied on each other for companionship throughout the years. When Bai Ye was 5, she was nearly eaten by a monster while training in the mountains. Qing Xiantian, who was 12 then, came to her rescue. That event became the foundation of their betrothal. Bai Ye rolled her eyes at that memory. She remembered all those memories in her head in a chronological order before she sighed. She muttered, surviving an assault by the task force sent by the world government through corpse snatching and soul fusing, these people were called Bai Ye. That was right, she was named after them. The abilities of certain witch doctors were so powerful that the world government blacklisted them. In Bai Ye's memories, everything before yesterday was innocent and sweet. The boy who saved her was the grandson of Bai Zhan's old friend. When both men were young, they agreed to join their families and everything had gone according to plan. Except Grandpa's death changed everything, Bai Ye said softly as she stared at the white banner that fluttered on the rooftop of the main building. Since yesterday, Qing Xiantian and the woman called Lu Minjian have tried all sorts of methods to test Bai Ye. They finally lost their patience this morning, as evidenced by the commotion that happened earlier. They said that Bai Ye should have inherited the scripture of Bai from her grandfather and gained some kind of power, but there were no signs of anything mystical happening. These 10 years were a lie, all to gain this scripture, Bai Ye concluded. Bai Ye wiggled her way to her grandfather's altar. If anyone saw her, they would have thought that she was a giant worm. Before her grandfather left home, he had told her this, "Little Ye, no matter what happens to Grandpa, a hug from you is all I need. Remember that?" Okay. At that time, Bai Ye thought the old man was joking. Bai Ye wriggled her way into Bai Zhan's coffin. As soon as she touched the rigid corpse, she realized her grandfather knew what he was saying. A low hum was heard when she touched Bai Zhan's body. A white glow passed from the old man's corpse and into Bai Ye. Chapter 2. The scum is back. As the white glow entered her body, Bai Ye felt power surge into her, filling her to the brim. At this moment, Bai Ye was not aware that her every move was being watched. "Ma master, this girl is scary. Her meridians were severed but she can still move so fast. Wasn't she dead just now? Master. We should leave. It's a zombie," a man who was dressed as a bodyguard said to the regal-looking man in all black beside him after witnessing the resurrection. His master's eyes were fixed on the creature before them. The bodyguard's advice was completely ignored. There was an odd humming in the air. Bai Ye experienced a transformation as power rushed through her body. The severed meridians on her limbs were repairing themselves. The cut on her face disappeared, leaving not even a scar. Her body felt different. As if something changed. A humming sound. Bai Ye found herself in an unfamiliar place. Before she could process her surroundings, a white light shot toward her. She tried to dodge it but failed. She felt something stick to her neck, right over her pulse. A rustling sound was heard as the creature on her neck wiggled. Bai Ye's muscles tensed. One wrong move could lead to a ripped carotid artery. She did not want to end up like the men she killed minutes ago. It was a treacherous position to be in. Just as Bai Ye was contemplating her counterattack, the creature made a squealing sound. "Wa," the creature cried. "Yaa." Bai Ye was sure the cries were from the creature attached to her neck. She felt its tiny claws tugging at her skin in tandem with its wails. It was a puzzling situation but she felt a connection with the creature. It seemed to have a reliance on her. Bai Ye angled her head. The creature attached to her neck was white and fluffy. Having sensed her stare, the fluff wiggled. Its head peeped out from underneath to meet Bai Ye's gaze. Bai Ye's eyes widened. The creature was adorable. It had a pair of animated, oval-shaped eyes and its body was white and furry. A white furball. Sniffles, "Little Ye is Amina. What took you so long? If you didn't show up, I would have died of hunger, it's so cold here," the little thing wailed in an accusing tone as if Bai Ye had intentionally mistreated it. Just as Bai Ye was about to question it, the creature's eyes widened. There was a bloodthirsty glint in its eyes as it screamed, "Little Ye, quick. That scum, Qing Xiantian, is back. Let's kill him." Chapter 3. Rebirth, Revenge. The next time Bai Ye could make out her surroundings, she was back in the coffin. Laid beside her was the thin and scraggly body of her deceased grandfather. The wrinkles on his face stood out even more in death. "Little Ye, look what Grandpa brought you. Little Ye, here is some osmanthus cake." The memories of her grandfather rose to the surface. Bai Ye was reminded of how much the old man loved her. Bai Ye was coddled by her grandfather growing up. Right after his death, she was forced into a situation where death was her only salvation. The orchestrator of the events was none other than her savior from 10 years ago. Throughout the years, she had developed real feelings for her fiancé, which made the betrayal hurt even more. Bai Ye felt the resentment and despair growing in her. She wondered if the emotions stemming from the white creature had fused with her. All those sweet memories from the past led up to this fateful day, a day where Bai Ye ended her life. The hideous faces of the beggars floated in her mind and one by one, they were replaced with Qing Suanation's face. Hatred. Disgust. Her hand clutched her chest in response to the hostility that roiled and threatened to break through. "Little Ye, he'll die in my hands one day," Bai Ye reassured herself. The intense animosity in her chest subsided with her promise. Qing Suanation's voice echoed, "Where is she?" The man was in the morning hall. He had left earlier with Lu Minjian in tow but the commotion made him stop. A few beggars ran past them and he managed to get the story out of one of them. Baya came back as a zombie. Perhaps. Little Ye, where are you? Qing Xiantian wondered about the Bai family inheritance. He had a hard time believing that Baya became a zombie. It must have been the awakening of her blood. After being forced to commit suicide? If it was true. The thought excited Qing Xiantian and he crooned softly, Little Ye, it's brother Tian. Where are you? Heh, Qing Xuanation's sudden change in tone elicited a taunting chuckle from the coffin. Darkness entered Baya's eyes that were void of emotions. Fingers clutched at the open lid of the coffin. A resurrected Baya crawled out of the enclosure. Lu Minjian caught up to Qing Xiantian. Brother Tian, she had wanted to convince him there was no one here and that they should leave. Words failed her when she saw Baya crawling out of the coffin in blood-soaked clothes. Lu Minjian felt the hostility in Baya's gaze. The penetrating stare bore through her soul and Lu Minjian felt as if she was being judged in hell. Ghost. Lu Minjian screamed at the top of her lungs. Qing Xiantian watched as Baya pulled herself out of the coffin. Although Baya's wounds had healed over, her wardrobe did not get the same treatment. The blood-stained clothes coupled with the apathetic gaze made her look like a hungry ghost searching for souls to devour. Little Ye. The appearance of Baya surprised Qing Xiantian but he recovered quickly. He took a few cautious steps toward the girl by the coffin. Little Ye, everything is in the past now. Come with me. The dulcet tones of Qing Xiantian echoed in the morning hall. The stare he gave Baya was soft and loving, reminiscent of a caring fiancé. If Baya had lost her memories, she would believe the man before her truly loved her. Unfortunately, her memories were intact and she remembered all the mistreatment she had had to endure with this body. Brother Tian. Don't get too close, she'll bite. Lu Minjian called out from the entrance of the morning hall when she saw Qing Xiantian edging closer to Baya. Just as the words left her, there was a sudden movement in the room. Baya became a blur. Like a predator with a prey in sight, she launched herself at Qing Xiantian. Chapter 4. Kill this bastard. No, Lu Minjian's words died in her throat. She could not believe what she was seeing. She personally saw to disabling the girl, yet the girl was moving fluidly as if she suffered no injury. Unless Baya was a zombie. An abomination. The sudden movement took Qing Xiantian by surprise but he managed to summon his mystic energy and dodged the attack. Before he could catch his breath, Baya changed course midway and came at him from another direction. There was no way he could escape the attack. In the next moment, pain erupted from his neck. Something warm dripped down his shirt collar. He touched his hand to his neck and it came away red. After the attack, fatigue crept up on Baya and she fell to her knees. There were clumps of skin and muscle underneath her fingernails. She cursed herself for not delivering a killing blow. She wanted nothing more than to rid the world of this scum. Little Ye, Qing Xiantian turned to face the scrawny girl. A twinkle of surprise and excitement danced in his eyes. At this point, Qing Xiantian was sure the Bai family blood in his fiancée had awoken. Otherwise, she would not be able to hurt a mystic warrior such as himself. He recalled how Lu Minjian had thoroughly disabled Baya's limbs. The girl should not be able to move this freely. He noticed not only did she heal, she also became stronger. Amazing. Qing Xiantian struggled to keep his excitement at bay. Little Ye, you've finally awoken your family blood. Please don't hold the past against me. From what I know, the scripture of Bai is passed down through the bloodline and requires an oppressive environment to awaken it. I was just trying to help, Qing Xiantian explained sincerely. In Qing Xuanation's eyes, Baya was a naive and ignorant girl who was in love with him. Therefore, he truly believed his coaxing and explanation would bring the simpleton back to him regardless of what had happened in the past. Of course. He was delusional. F***ck off. Baya muttered ominously. Her newfound strength gave her the ability to injure Qing Xiantian but not kill him. Qing Xiantian was not the only person there. When Baya delivered her strike, she sensed the bloodlust coming from the men who were surrounding her house. These were soldiers who had wartime experience. Baya knew they were Qing Xuanation's private army. The man was the eldest son of the governor of Qingyun and heir to the Qingyun estate. No matter where he went, the household security followed. Little Ye. I said, F***ck off. If killing him was not an option, Baya wanted him out of her sight. She could not believe the scum of a man wanted to persuade her to leave with him. Did she appear to be brain dead to him? You scum. Baya, enough. Was Brother Tian not clear? He wants to bring you home. You should be grateful instead of kicking up a fuss. Lu Minjian spoke up after she got over the initial shock of seeing Baya alive and well. Lu Minjian knew the reason behind Qing Xuanation's change in demeanor. He was after the scripture of Bai. Having judged the situation, she deduced that Baya unlocked her potential. Jealousy pricked at her heart. The words drew Baya's attention. After realizing Baya was not a man-eating zombie, Lu Minjian let her mouth run. What are you looking at? I'm telling it as it is. A grin formed on Bai Ye's face. She glanced at Qing Xiantian and said, You want me? Yes, little yet. I know you're scared, the man answered quickly. Before he could deliver his sweet nothings, Bai Ye interrupted him. Then, disable her and bring back those beggars. Let them have their way with her, Bai Ye said in a nonchalant manner. Chapter 5. The Cruel Bee *tch. Lu Minjian narrowed her eyes at Bai Ye and shrieked, Bai Ye! In your dreams. Qing Xiantian was surprised by Bai Ye's request. He frowned and said, Little Ye, what Minjian did to you in the past was for your own good. We were only trying to help. He shot a look at Lu Minjian, signaling her to play along. The woman's reluctance was evident as she bit her lip. A forced smile graced her face when she turned to Bai Ye and said, Yes, little Ye. You know I never meant you any malice. I've always treated you well, no. I even gave you all those beautiful clothes, jewelry, and tidbits. Have you forgotten all about that? Forget. Of course not. Bai Ye's memories of Lu Minjian were clear as day. Lu Minjian often came over to spend time with her after Bai Ye turned 10. The bond they shared was akin to sisters, but that was before all this happened. It seemed the scumbags really thought of her to be a fool. Little Ye, the past is the past, don't be stubborn now. I'll arrange for the people to give Grandpa Bai a glorious funeral. Come with me, you should rest, Qing Xiantian said before Bai Ye had a chance to speak. He reached out and grabbed her hand. The movement garnered an instant response from the girl. She skipped away with a mocking smile on her face. Unwilling to meet my demands? You're soft for her, aren't you? Little Ye. Get lost then. Bai Ye pointed to the gates and shouted. She grinned when she noticed the change in Qing Suanation's expression. The light in his eyes dimmed. If you plan to take me by force, I'll make sure you end up with a corpse instead. It was at that moment Qing Xiantian realized Bai Ye had changed. She was no longer the innocent child who could easily be tricked. If I disable Lu Minjian's limbs, will you come with me? No. Brother Tian, you can't. Lu Minjian made her objection clear before Bai Ye could say anything. She knew Qing Xiantian, the fact that he asked meant there was a part of him that was willing to go through with the deal. No. No way. Lu Minjian's instincts screamed for her to run. She did not want to end up as Bai Ye's punching bag. Before she could move, Qing Xiantian placed a hand on her shoulder. His grip was not physically strong, but he exerted his mystic energy and Lu Minjian found herself rooted to the spot. No, Brother Tian, fear coursed through Lu Minjian's veins. She always found Qing Suanation's ferocity to be attractive, but when she was the victim. No, Brother Tian, fear coursed through Lu Minjian's veins. She always found Qing Suanation's ferocity to be attractive, but when she was the victim. Little Ye, I would do anything for you. I was only following your grandfather's wishes when I did those things, to ensure you awakened the Bai family inheritance. Qing Xiantian immediately changed tack when his first method of persuasion failed. If revenge is what you want, I shall grant your wish. Little Ye, you are the only one I care about, Qing Xiantian declared as he brandished a dagger. With a flick of his wrist, he sliced open Lu Minjian's arm. A shriek tore through Lu Minjian's throat. No. The blade in Qing Suanation's hands flickered. In the blink of an eye, all four limbs and their respective meridians were disabled. The elegance of his moves contrasted the cruelty of the butchery. Blood seeped out from the wounds and Lu Minjian crumbled to the ground. Wide-eyed, she could not believe Qing Xiantian sacrificed her for that little bee *tch. Qing Xiantian did not spare his victim a glance. There was only Bai Ye in his eyes. He was hoping for Bai Ye to let her guard down and give him a window of opportunity to strike. He aimed to incapacitate and kidnap the girl. Little Ye, if you still hold a grudge, you can take it out on me, but please don't reject me. Will you come with me? Of course. Not. Bai Ye grinned. With a quick tap of her feet, she made her escape. Chapter 6. The Beautiful Devil, 1. At this point, Bai Ye had a better understanding of Qing Suanation's psychology. She expected Qing Xiantian would try to get the jump on her and decided to make the first move. The speed at which Bai Ye moved surprised Qing Xiantian. He did not manage to stop her escape. Get her, he shouted to his men. Beyond the Bai family estate, the Qingyuan soldiers emerged from the shadows. The swiftest of the group managed to block Bai Ye's advance. The two soldiers did not expect the girl to lunge at their throats. Her movements were lightning fast and her aim was accurate. The murderous intent emanating from the girl was frightening. Startled, they took a few steps back. Bai Ye took advantage of the gap and darted forward like an arrow. She headed straight for the tree-covered hills. Chase after her. Go. Qing Xiantian and his group of soldiers went after Bai Ye. The large party entered the forest, but they were too slow. She slipped through the bushes and trees like a native animal, disappearing without a trace. This Find her. I don't care if you have to dig up the forest. Find her. Qing Xiantian growled. Anger flared in him knowing Bai Ye had fooled him. Once his growl died down, the cut on his neck throbbed and he was reminded of Bai Ye's taunts. At the same time, as Qing Xiantian dedicated his forces to scour the forest, Bai Ye tried her best to disappear among the trees. Her weakened body did not allow her to run far. Instead, she hid in the most unobtrusive corner of the forest, seeking refuge at the top of one of the large trees. Master, this girl is shameless. How could she strip naked in broad daylight? What has this world become? The bodyguard was speechless when he saw the escaped girl remove her blood-stained clothes and roll around the forest floor. Like a savage, the naked girl bounded up the tall tree. The speed at which the girl moved meant all the bodyguard saw was a blur. Truth be told, he saw little of the girl as the tree leaves served as a cover. The bodyguard knew her actions were aimed to rid herself of the stench of blood and to throw off her pursuers, but... Master, did you see that? The bodyguard asked, glancing surreptitiously at the man in black. He was worried the girl's antics irritated his master. The result would be. When he turned to look at his master, he felt his skin crawl. He was shocked to see his master's reaction, because his master was smiling. Smiling. F***ck. Master, should I kill them all? The smile frightened the bodyguard so much that he immediately offered to handle the situation himself. Everyone in the household knew a smile meant heads would roll. A neutral expression was acceptable, but a smile from their master was ominous. God damn it. They were done for. His master did not answer. Instead, he made his own move. The bodyguard cursed under his breath. Blood would fill the rivers of this village. The bodyguard sighed in frustration. A second passed. Bai Ye, who was still hidden among the tree leaves, suddenly noticed a man in a black silk robe standing on the branch she was on. She felt her hackles raised in the mere seconds of studying the man shrouded in darkness. He had a menacing aura and exuded a dangerous beauty, like a poppy flower, arresting in many ways. His cold, iridescent eyes watched her dispassionately from the tree covers. Bai Ye felt his devilish gaze pierce through her soul. Chapter 7. The Beautiful Devil, 2. Thud. Cut down all the trees. Qing Suanation's party was approaching Bai Ye's location. At the sound of Qing Suanation's orders, the trees nearby Bai Ye swayed. His men took to tree chopping enthusiastically. Bai Ye clung to the tree she was perched on, but her focus remained on the man in black who appeared out of nowhere. He seemed unperturbed by the commotion that headed their way. Bai Ye found that disconcerting. Although she did not sense any malice or murderous intent from the man, it did not quell the rising fear in her. Something about the man made her feel like she should run away. It was an odd feeling. Before she could make sense of it, the man was before her. Bai Ye's pupils narrowed. The man had arched eyebrows and black eyes that glittered attractively. His thin lips were quirked in a bewitching smirk. He returned Bai Ye's gaze with much enthusiasm. Time seemed to slow between them. The tree Bai Ye was perched on was subjected to the soldier's abuse, but she did not move a muscle. Her plan was to hold her breath and weather whatever physical injury sustained to avoid detection. Bai Ye knew once the search was over, she would have a chance to escape for good. However, "You're out of mystic power," the man in black whispered into her ear. His voice had a raspy lilt that sent shivers down her spine. The warm breath by her ear certainly did not help matters. She felt the hairs on her arm stand in response to the close proximity with the beautiful devil. Bai Ye was not in control of her body. She wanted nothing more than to just run away. She had no idea why this man took an interest in her, but she stood her ground. For the man to know she was out of mystic power, he must have seen what happened to her during the incident in the courtyard. In the world Bai Ye lived in, mystic power was the source of power for any practitioner of mysticism. Once a child was old enough to read, they would be trained to harness their mystic power. Bai Ye was once an 8th-rank practitioner. Some people who fit the criteria would develop mystic energy when they reached adulthood. These people were known as mystic warriors. Qing Xiantian was an example of a 2nd-rank mystic warrior. If Bai Zhan had not died, there was a good chance Bai Ye would achieve her mystic warrior rank before she turned 18. She was undoubtedly a gifted practitioner. After Lu Minjian had severed her meridians, Bai Ye survived because of the mysterious spirit she inherited. However, it caused a change in her body. Although Bai Ye's mystic power was not back to full strength, her physical body was in fighting shape. It was the reason she could execute the series of counterattacks against Qing Xiantian. The change in her fighting style went unnoticed by Qing Xiantian. The basic difference between mystic power and mystic energy was that the mystic power was innate and not detectable by most. Unless Bai Ye underwent a specific examination, no one would know her store of mystic power had actually depleted. "Do you want my help?" the man with the husky voice asked. His eyes roamed across the camouflage of leaves, eyeing Bai Ye's naked body. Chapter 8. You taste sweet, 1. In the meantime, the soldiers managed to chop down enough trees to make a small clearing in the woods. The tree Baya perched on would unfortunately be one of the casualties. Despite the pressing circumstances, Baya did not answer the man. Was that a rejection? Thud. The huge tree fell and Baya clung tightly onto the branch. The tree toppled into the swampy waters as she expected. She was prepared for this, so she allowed herself to be pulled into the mud. Submerged underwater, there would be no traces of her above ground. The bodyguard tiptoed carefully toward his master. Surprised by the girl's antics, the bodyguard asked, "Master, do you think she planned this? That's why she chose this particular tree." That was a horrifying thought. Within a few breaths, the girl had managed to cloak herself within the forest. She even utilized the swamps to cover her tracks and hide her body. Moreover, how did she know the men would chop down the trees? "Master, we only found her bloody clothes," one of the soldiers reported to Qing Xiantian. They had combed through the forest but there were no signs of any human. Qing Xiantian took the clothes from the soldier and sniffed. He was able to smell the dampened scent somewhere below ground. "Young master, our actions garnered attention from the people of Banruo village. They are coming in droves to investigate," a soldier reported. Qing Suanation's mood darkened at the news. "Young master, the empire's strongest warrior hails from Banruo village." "Shut up. I don't need you to remind me." Although Banruo village was just a small settlement, Qing Xiantian knew he had to be careful. It was why he brought the soldiers along. It was obvious Qing Xiantian did not want to give up the search. In the end, he ordered half of his forces to continue the search while the other half followed him as he made way to the Bai family's courtyard. He had to placate the villagers for fear of bringing the wrath of Qin Ban upon himself. He was aware of Bai Zhan's long-standing relationship with the villagers. Some folks even saw Baya as their own child. Moments after Qing Xiantian left, the search party scurried out of the forest en masse. When the coast was clear, Baya dragged herself out of the mud. She gasped for fresh air. The charming man in black robes appeared before her once again. Without any warning, he cupped her face in his hand. Baya wanted to pull away but she found herself rooted to the spot. "Filthy," the man uttered. Despite the disapproval, his fingers stroked her cheek. Then, something unexpected happened. The man's face inched closer. His teeth took hold of her bottom lip and bit down. Blood welled from the open wound. Baya was shocked, eyes wide in surprise. Pain radiated from her bottom lip as she stared at the beautiful devil. Chapter 9. "You taste sweet, too." The next breath Baya took irritated the wound on her lip and she winced. Then, she felt something soft on her lip. The man was tasting her bottom lip as if it was a delicacy. He suckled at her bleeding lip. She shut her eyes but made no move to fight the man. Her limbs did not obey her orders. Her frosty glare made the man who was sucking her lip, or more accurately her blood, chuckle. Even his chuckle was magnetic like his person. Yu Zhekong was amused to find such a remarkable young lady. Not only did she carry a rare inheritance in her veins, she also had more courage and wisdom than the average person. The girl was able to retain her calmness and wit despite being physically near him, something no one had succeeded before. Although her body was immobilized, he could tell she was patiently waiting for a chance to strike at him. The girl emanated a tantalizing scent that he could not resist. He deduced the girl belonged to the dark and did not hesitate to take a bite. The blood he tasted confirmed his suspicions. "You taste sweet," Yu Zhekong said after releasing the girl's bottom lip. His finger traced a path across her swollen, red lips. Following that, he started to undress before Baya. He gracefully took off the black silk robe he wore. "Master," the bodyguard who was watching the scene unfold felt his jaw drop. His mind went blank. There was nothing he could do but stew in the uneasiness he felt. The bodyguard could not believe his master. Tianqian Empire's most dangerous man was seducing a young girl in the hills of a backwater village. Sure, the bodyguard admitted the girl was quite a beauty but at this moment, she was covered in mud and smelled like a rotting corpse. "Master. Oh, master. When did your preference change? Are you so hungry that you're willing to forsake your dignity?" "Ah, no, this is not right," the bodyguard thought. "Master, you never had much interest in women before. Why now?" Many pretty ladies in the king's court clamored for his attention. Yu Zhekong ignored them all, and yet he was flirting with this nobody in the woods. Ignoring the bodyguard's grumblings, Yu Zhekong did as he pleased. After he disrobed, he bent over and inched closer to Baya. The bodyguard quickly shifted his gaze in respect, though he was disappointed in his master's taste. Who knew the man had such exotic preferences? The bodyguard felt nauseous. As long as his master was happy. Baya's thoughts of the man who stood before her were not too far off from the bodyguard's. She was aware of the unappealing stench that followed her after her tussle in the mud. There was no way she came across as anything but filthy. Moreover, Baya had the undeveloped physique of a 15-year-old. She had no curves, so to speak. She wondered if the beautiful stranger who stood before her had some pedophilic tendencies. Baya had no means of fighting back, so she tried her best to control her emotions. With leering eyes, she sized up the shirtless man. He had a broad chest that tapered into a narrow waist. His legs were slender but muscular. All in all, Baya could not say she was disappointed. After the first once over, she felt a tug at her waist and she fell forward. Chapter 10. The Erudition Trials. Another scent was mixed with the rotting smell of mud. Baya let out a relieved sigh when she realized the beautiful stranger had put his robe over her body. She was glad he was not a pedophile. The man noted the change in Baya's breathing and asked with a smirk, "Are you disappointed?" Baya raised her head. The sudden realization hit her she could move. Without hesitation, she tried to push the man away, but it was akin to having pushed a brick wall. Her strength was insignificant to Yuja Kong's. He laughed at the fuss the girl made and proceeded to tie the sash of the robe around her waist. Yuja Kong gently tamed the unkempt locks of hair and wiped away the mud around her ears and neck. Throughout the whole process, Baya felt like she was a doll. It was an unpleasant feeling, being manipulated and maneuvered without her explicit permission. This rebellious streak of hers got her into trouble a long time ago. She was hunted by the world government for her disobedience. At this moment, Baya submitted herself to the man's touch. The reason being she was too weak to fight back and she was curious as to what the man wanted. Yuja Kong was satisfied with the girl's submissiveness, but he knew it was just a facade. If she was at her full strength, there was no doubt she would go for his throat. Once he was satisfied with his handiwork, he handed Baya a jade badge. "Hold on to this." The girl took the item without a word. "The Erudition Trials will be held in a month. You'll take part in it with this participation badge," Yuja Kong explained. "Entering the courts is the only way you can shed your past." Finally, Baya opened her mouth to speak. "What do you want with me?" If this participation badge granted her freedom from Qingxue Nation's influence, what would this man want in return? He would definitely want something significant in exchange. Yuja Kong laughed. He stroked her mud-caked head with care and said, "I'll let you know when you're in Imperial City." Baya stared at the man, more specifically, his sensual lips. She pocketed the badge and turned to leave. "I'll be waiting for you," Yuja Kong said with a bright smile. He was confident Baya would turn up for the Erudition Trials. Baya did not respond. Although her pace was steady, her heart was racing. She knew the man had the ability to stop her from leaving. Yuja Kong did not follow her. Baya managed to walk all the way to the edge of the forest before she turned around. The dangerous and enigmatic man was no longer there. He was gone. The tension in her body left her and she exhaled heavily. She did not want to admit she was afraid of the man. Little did she know, Yuja Kong was still around the area. Suddenly, she heard a familiar shout. "Little yet." Chapter 11. The White Creature and the Scripture of Bai, 1. Baya turned to the source of the voice and saw a familiar old face. "Mr. Village Chief. Little yet, it's really you. Come quick," the village chief of Benruo village, Jifu, called out. The girl who was covered in mud was indeed Baya. Before Baya said anything, Jifu quickly took her hand and guided her to the village square. She could feel the coarseness of his palm on hers. As they walked, Jifu explained, "The village knows about your grandfather's passing and that bastard, Qingxue Nation's attempt to kidnap you. You shouldn't be alone, you can stay at my place for now." Baya was not used to receiving kindness from others. The complicated nature of her troubles made her wary of accepting the village chief's offer. "Mr. Village Chief." Before she could voice her concern, Jifu interrupted her, "Little yet, don't worry. Everything will be alright, we'll take care of your grandfather." They rounded a corner and Jifu tugged her into an alley. The sudden change in direction jarred her and she fell into the soft embrace of a stranger. "Little yet," a familiar voice crooned. The voice belonged to a middle-aged woman. "Let's not spend too much time here. Quickly take Little Ye home." "I'll go have a look at their house," Jifu ushered his wife, Yaokuiwa. "Yes, yes. Come with me Little Ye," Yaokuiwa said as she coddled Baya like she would her own child. Baya did not say anything. Truthfully speaking, she was not used to being treated this way. As they walked, Yaokuiwa rubbed her back and said, "Little Ye, don't be afraid. You're safe with us now." Baya did not have the heart to turn down their offer. Resting in the village chief's house sounded like a good idea when she had so many things to figure out. In her memory, the people of Benruo village always treated the Bai family well, and the village chief's family was especially friendly. The first thing Baya did upon arriving at Jifu's house was to take a bath. Then, she laid down on the heated platform. Yaokuiwa sent in some food and left the tired girl to her own devices. Baya nibbled on a bun and spoke into the empty room, "Come on out. Or am I supposed to go to where you're at?" Pop. A furry, round ball emerged from Baya's neck. The furry creature stared hungrily at the buns on the table. "Little yet. I want a bite too." Baya was speechless. "Little yet," the ball of fur begged pitifully. Despite its pleas, it did not try to grab the buns. A moment passed before realization hit her. "You can't leave my body." "That is correct. I will die if I leave you," the furry thing said poutily. The creature gave Baya a forlorn look. Baya pursed her lips and mused. Then, she grabbed a bun for the creature. "Little yet is the best." The creature took the bun and traveled up Baya's head. There it sat, munching on the offered food. Baya suspected she would have to wash her hair again after this, but she let the creature be. Minutes passed in silence before she asked a question. "Tell me, how did my grandfather die? Was it the Ching family?" Chapter 12. The White Creature and the Scripture of Bai, 2. "No," the furry, white creature said firmly. Baya tugged the creature from her head. "Who then?" The creature chewed on the remnants of the bun and licked the sides of its mouth before replying, "I don't know. The old man sealed me in before it happened." Baya squinted her eyes at the white creature. Her gaze made the creature uncomfortable and its claws scratched softly against her palm. "I really don't know. The old man didn't allow me to see." "Then how do you know it's not the Ching family?" Baya asked suspiciously. Realizing it fell into Baya's trap, the little creature puffed its body up. "Oh. Little yet, you're mean. You're trying to trick me," the creature said with a pout, hoping to distract Baya with its cuteness. It did not work. So the Ching family who retrieved Grandpa's body was responsible for his death. Baya did not intend in letting the creature off so easily. "No. It's really not," the furry creature denied. Its prepubescent voice went a pitch higher and its tone sounded like it was about to cry. Baya sighed, then reached up to pet the creature. "I promise I won't rush off to seek revenge. I can control my temper." She was not sure what the creature was, but if it came from Bai Zhan's body, it must know something about his death. She believed the creature was not saying anything because it was worried she would let her emotions get the better of her. "No, it's not the Ching family. And stop asking me, I won't tell you now," the creature mumbled as Baya squished its round body. It curled up in the girl's palm. "No." Baya frowned. Her hypothesis was that her grandfather's death resulted from an altercation with the Ching family. Was she wrong? The previous Baya had no clue as to how Bai Zhan died. When Baya crawled out of the old man's coffin, she knew her grandfather was attacked from all sides. Although he did not exhibit any obvious external injuries, she sensed he had multiple fractures and ruptured vessels in his body. Internal injuries such as these could be associated with the use of ultrasonic weapons. However, ultrasonic weapons did not exist in this world. Baya could imagine a group of strong individuals launching an ambush attack on her grandfather. The only people who were capable of such an attack was the Ching family. Perhaps the mysterious man she met in the forest would be able to stand against Bai Zhan too. At that thought, Baya grabbed the little creature to hold it in place. Was it the man from today? It's not him, but that man is bad news. Little yet, we should run away the next time he shows up. He will devour you, the creature lectured in its high-pitched voice, hoping to scar Baya. It was not him. Baya sighed in relief. She had a feeling the mysterious man was stronger than the Ching family. There were nuances in his speech that hinted he was related to royalty. She realized her fear of the mysterious man stemmed from the little creature inside her. "Why are you so afraid of him?" Chapter 13. The White Creature and the Scripture of Bai, 3. "I'm not scared of him. I just hate him," the white creature grumbled. "Little yet, that man is a practitioner of the Nine Suns while you are of the Shadows and Infinite Origins. He tasted your blood today, our blood. You must believe me, he will devour us," the creature continued its elaboration in earnest. It moved to Baya's jawline and growled to emphasize the devourment. Baya chuckled at the creature's over-the-top explanation and decided to move the conversation along. "All right. Tell me more about the Scripture of Bai then." "Oh. Close your eyes, I'll show you the incantation," the creature said before climbing up onto Baya's head. Baya let her eyes fall shut. A moment later, she felt a gentle wave that pushed against her mind. A string of unrecognizable characters swirled in her head. Despite not understanding it, the gibberish seared into her mind. The memory implant took her by surprise. The Scripture of Bai was not what she imagined. She did not expect to have the furry creature as a companion either. According to the first chapter of the Scripture of Bai, sensations, the first skill Baya would gain from having accomplished her training would be enhanced sensation. Baya cried out excitedly. The skill would allow her to communicate with inanimate objects in the world. It was a very useful skill to have. For example, She could spiritually communicate with the bench and look into any recent happenings that involved the object. If the bench was involved in a murder, she would have the chance to see the murderer. That was not all. The most important aspect of this skill was, elixirs are highly coveted in our world, and with this skill, I'd be able to speak to the plants in the wild and hunt down the rare ingredients. Baya said enthusiastically. She recalled how her grandfather once sold a handful of rare pickings from the mountains for a good amount of money. Moreover, combined with my apothecary skills, I will be able to make some useful potions, poisonous ones, life-saving ones. A smile stretched across her face as she thought of the prospects. The world always seemed strange and unfamiliar to Baya. She often felt like a weakling, but not anymore. Once she completed the first chapter of training from the scripture of Bai, she would be someone of worth. Even if she encountered the mysterious man, she would have the confidence to take him down. She just had to find a strong poison. Qing Xiantian would be child's play even if he had 100 soldiers by his side. Great. Bai's eyes crinkled in unfettered happiness. Her irises flashed a hint of green. The afternoon passed by as Baya delved into the scripture of Bai. A growling sound was heard as her stomach made its emptiness known. She calmed her mind and dispelled the green aura that surrounded her body. The white, fluffy creature who was silent throughout her training then said, "You're amazing. You caught on so quick." The creature's voice sounded significantly weaker than it did before. Chapter 14. The White Creature and the Scripture of Bai, 4. Furball. Baya reached for the little creature. There was a grayish-white appearance to the creature's blue eyes. The adorable enthusiasm of the furry creature was gone. "Hey, I'm not a furball. I'm a little spirit," the creature argued. It tried to brandish its claws to show its disapproval, but it required too much energy. The creature's limbs moved sluggishly and Baya frowned. "What's wrong? Are you hungry?" She took a bun from the plate and handed it to the creature. The creature shut its eyes and feigned dead. "I'm too tired to eat. I need to return to your body and rest." With that, the furry thing melted into her palm. "Furball." Baya called out, concern laced in her voice. "Not a furball, I'm a spirit," the creature mumbled. "Tell me what's wrong." "I'm fine. Just exhausted my spiritual energy, I just need to rest." Baya pressed on. "How long will you rest?" There was no response. "Furball? Furball?" She called upon the creature repeatedly. She could feel the creature's presence diminishing. "Little spirit." "Yes, correct." "Little yeah, I'm cold," the furball whined pitifully. Baya felt her heart twinge. "What can I do?" "There's nothing you can do for now, I'm okay, just need some rest." The creature's voice was fading, yet it still refused to let Baya help. "Tell me, I might have some ideas." Dark spiritual energy, the old cemetery, the creature's voice sounded like a dying whisper in her head. That was the last she heard from the furball. The voice in her head disappeared. Dark spiritual energy in the old cemetery. Baya rubbed the spot on her palm where the furball retreated into. A heavy knock on the door broke Baya's concentration. "Little yet." Little. The door was busted open. A broad-shouldered man entered the room, followed by Jifu and Yaokuiwa. Baya stared at them, in shock. "Little yet, are you all right?" The old couple looked distraught as they fussed over Baya. They breathed a sigh of relief when they found nothing amiss. "I'm all right. I must have been too tired and passed out." Baya figured they must have been knocking on the door for some time, and her non-response made them worried. The man who knocked down the door was Jifu's eldest son, Jida. He was a man of immense strength, so he took great care to control it when he ruffled her hair, worried he might accidentally hurt the young girl. "Good, good. Let's have dinner now," Jifu said. Baya nodded and asked, "Mr. Village Chief, do you know where I can find dark spiritual energy?" "Dark spiritual energy?" Jifu's footsteps halted and a knowing look crossed his face as he stared at the young girl. Baya was busy lacing her shoes, hence the change in Jifu's expression went unnoticed. Chapter 15. Participating in the erudition trials, 1. When Baya looked up, Jifu schooled his expression. "Yes, I wish to train there." There was a moment of hesitation when he asked, "About Qing Xiantian, you?" "Ah. It's dinner time, let's not talk about this." "Come on little yeah, ignore that man." Yaokuiwa interrupted from the side. The reaction from the old couple was understandable. After all, the whole village knew about her crush on Qing Xiantian. They were simply worried she would crawl back to him despite the maltreatment he subjected her to. Baya felt the need to clarify her stance on the issue. "I'm done with him. We are two separate entities now." She truly was done with that piece of human trash. The old couple were surprised to hear her say that. Jida only smiled at Baya. "Little yet, you. I don't like Qing Xiantian anymore." Baya reaffirmed her stance. "Okay, okay. Jifu nodded and clasped his hands. If you decide so, Grandpa Ji will support you. Grandpa Qin and the whole village will back you up. Okay. Baya nodded. She was not sure of what she could do with their support, but she appreciated the kindness shown to her by Jifu and his family. After dinner, Jifu brought Baya to the central room. Jifu broke the silence. Little Ye, you asked about somewhere with dark spiritual energy. That's not an easy place to reach. It was not unexpected. She did some thinking during dinner time and surmised that Baijan must have trained in these spots when he was away. She nodded. I know, but I would like to try. If you have any tips. You don't have to go to those places to train. I know you're part of the dark, but you can rank up even with your usual training, Jifu advised. He consoled Bayet. Grandpa Ji knows you've had it rough these past 2 days, but it's over now. We have a plan to send you to Imperial City. You will live under the protection of the Qin family. No one would dare to antagonize you there, you can rest assured. The villagers had prepared an escape plan for Bayet so she could be rid of Qingxue Nation's influences. Master Qin was rumored to be the strongest warrior in the empire. He was favored by the emperor and wielded substantial power over the empire's military forces. Being by Master Qin's side would free her from Qingxue Nation's harassment. However, Baya wanted to stand on her own 2 feet. I would still like to attempt. Little Ye, Jifu sounded exasperated. The young girl stood her ground. I know you all have my best interest in mind and I know I will be treated well in the Qin family, but I want to try this. Jifu stared Baya down. He realized she was no longer the lively young girl he once knew. Standing before him was a girl who was forced to grow up after her grandfather's demise. He would be happy for Baya if she matured organically. They had arrived too late and the child had experienced too much suffering to retain her innocence. Although it pained him to let her go, he gave her the information she sought. Okay. If you must, you should head for Qingyun and participate in the erudition trials. Chapter 16. Participating in the erudition trials, 2. Jifu's suggestion came as a surprise to Bayet. The beautiful devil she met in the forest appeared in her mind. The man must have known she would end up participating in the trials. This way, there'll be less danger and you'll have a chance to interact with the dark spiritual energy. There is one problem, you're not of age to enter the erudition trials, Jifu commented. According to the rules, the participant had to be 16 to 25 years old. Baya was 1 year shy of the qualification. Baya shook her head to get rid of the silhouette of the man in her mind. With a calm expression on her face, she asked, how do we go about that? She was not too worried as she had the Jade participation badge. Jifu did not know Baya had a participation badge. He exhaled deeply then said, I'll take you to the examination board. In exchange for a favor, they should be willing to overlook a small detail like this. Really? Baya was interested in any alternative option. She did not want to rely on the man's gift, especially after the little Furbal's advice. Jifu calculated the days and said, don't you worry. Go to bed, we'll set out first light tomorrow. If I remember right, the trials begin in half a month. The registration will close 3 days before the start of the trials, so we have another 12 days to prepare. Baya frowned at the news. She would have preferred to leave the village after her grandfather's burial. Your grandpa would not mind. Grandpa Qin will ensure the procession goes smoothly, Jifu reassured Baya. He knew she was a filial child. Baya nodded and bid Jifu good night. As soon as Baya left, Yao Kuiwa entered the room. You're letting her go? She's still a young girl and after the tragedy, she... Jifu shook his head and cut in. No, she's no longer a little girl. Yao Kuiwa was confused at first, then a realization dawned on her. You mean? Yes, I believe she's our little master now. It seems she has inherited the Bai family's spirit and become its next host, Jifu said. The middle-aged woman was skeptical. The spirit accepted her. The man nodded. Why else would she ask for dark spiritual energy? The spirit must have started the energy transfer. From today onwards, Baya is our new leech. Yao Kuiwa remained unconvinced. I remember it took her grandfather 3 years to tame the spirit. Are you sure she has the spirit under control? Unknown to them, the spirit was the one who approached Baya. There had been no doubt it would accept her as its host and the whole process was painless for the girl. The spirit was reliant on Baya. If the elderly couple knew, they would be shocked. Send word to Qin Ban, the next spirit host is born. She must be protected at all costs. Also, we will launch an investigation into Baijan's death, Jifu announced. There was an intensity in his voice and aura that hinted at something more underneath his farmer appearance. Chapter 17. Participating in the erudition trials, 3. Baya retired to her room, oblivious to the new title that was bestowed upon her, and its significance. She glanced out of the window in the direction of her house, reminiscing. After a moment, she took a seat and began her training. I have to quickly master sensations. Baya knew power was the only way to be in control of her life. With that in mind, Baya spent the whole night meditating. Sunlight speared through the village streets. Sitting cross-legged on the heated platform was Baya. Her body was encapsulated in an energy field that hummed softly. Tendrils of green energy seeped out from her body. The energy had a rich, earthy scent. Suddenly, a pain shot through Baya's body. Her concentration broke like a tightly wound lute-string. She cried out in pain. At this moment, Baya felt her body spasm in response to the pain. Her nerve endings felt like they were on fire. She had been meditating and chanting the incantation taught by the spirit when the pain struck her. She wondered if she had been overzealous in her attempts. She was unfamiliar with her family's practice, and recklessness could lead to irreversible disabilities. That would be bad. Minutes passed before she regained her senses. The pain faded away and there was a sense of joy in her heart. She knew she had not overstepped any boundaries. She felt strings snapping within, and she was sure it meant the gates of heavenly spirits in her body were opened. The vibrating sensation only faded after an hour. Baya exhaled deeply. When she breathed in, the sour odor of her body assaulted her nose. It reminded her of the smell of the swamp from yesterday. It was revolting. She made a beeline for the wash area. Although she was not the most hygienic person, the rotten smell was too strong to ignore. She had to get rid of the smell. After 4 rounds of washing, she was finally free from the odor. Little yet? Are you done? We'll have breakfast before we leave, Jifu hollered. A few seconds later, Baya came to the table, dried and dressed. Jifu studied the girl, an eyebrow raised. What's the matter? Baya was mildly worried she was not thorough with her washings. The old man said nothing and gestured for Baya to eat. The girl's spiritual energy had grown significantly from yesterday. He was proud of her progress. The rate at which the girl was gaining spiritual energy was abnormally fast. The phenomenon supported Jifu's theory that Baya was an extraordinary spirit host. To have improved by leaps and bounds in just one night. His excitement nearly made him drop his bowl of porridge. He redirected his mind to other things at hand. Are you all right, Grandpaji? Concern was etched into Baya's face. She wondered if she should check his pulse to see if he had had a stroke. I'm just a bit nervous. I haven't left the village in a long time, Jifu lied. He quickly excused himself from the table under the guise of checking on their food supplies for the journey. She observed the old man for a second longer. Once satisfied, her focus returned to her breakfast. As she picked up her chopsticks, a green flash crossed her eyes. One of the meridians in a person's body that can be unlocked. Chapter 18. The Strongest Scalpel, 1. The green flash struck Baya when she picked up her chopsticks. Images poured into her mind and she sucked in a breath. It was a sign that her training paid off. Success. A smile tugged on Baya's lips. Her pretty face lit up with joy and pride. Yaoqiwa had just completed packing their food. She walked into the room and saw Baya shoveling food down her throat. Yaoqiwa pitied the young girl, thinking the girl must be worried about their meals when they were traveling. Despite knowing the girl outgrew her childhood, Yaoqiwa could resist showering Baya with affection. She stroked the girl's hair and said, Little Ye, with Grandpaji around, there's nothing you have to worry about, okay. Baya mumbled something incoherent and continued stuffing her mouth. Under the loving gaze of Yaoqiwa, she finished her breakfast. Finally, she bid farewell to Banruo village and happily left with Jifu. At that moment, in another location. Master, old Ji is taking Lady Bai out of the village, the spy informed Qing Xiantian after receiving the news. Follow them. Don't lose them, Qing Xiantian ordered darkly. His drastic actions yesterday earned him the ire of the village and thus his options were limited. Yes, Master. The spy left with his orders. Master, the substitute body is in place and Bai Zhan's corpse is on its way to King Yun. Great. You'll make sure the substitute body is buried. The rest will follow me to Tong City. Qing Suanation's target had moved out of Banruo village. It only made sense for him to follow suit. You won't escape me, he muttered under his breath as his finger traced the scar on his neck. Truthfully, he already had a plan in mind. He wanted to bring Baya through the front gates of King Yun. No one would be allowed to let her leave King Yun. Baya and her powers would then belong to him. While Qing Xiantian was busy plotting, Baya left the village in a bullhorn cart. A bullhorn was a beast larger than an ordinary buffalo. A singular horn protruded from its forehead. They were commonly used as a means of transport as they were faster than mules. Riding a bullhorn was like traveling on a high-speed rail. With the help of the beast, Jifu and Baya arrived at Tong City in 10 days. Tong City was the nearest registration center for the erudition trials to Banruo village. Come now, let's get off. Bullhorn carts were not allowed to enter the city, so they had to leave the beast in the monster stable outside the city's perimeter. Baya disembarked from the vehicle. As her feet touched the ground, her eyes scanned the high walls surrounding Tong City. Once Jifu settled the beast in, he brought Baya into the city. Mystic weapons. Mystic weapons. The latest of its kind. Don't miss out on this rare find. Along the streets of the city, weapon dealers advertised their wares loudly to attract customers. All sorts of weapons were on display for passers-by to browse. In the beginning, like Jifu, Baya was wholly focused on getting to the registration center. Although there were still a few days to the deadline, being early never hurt. However, midway through their journey into the city, Baya's attention was caught by an obsidian blade. It was a scalpel. The finely crafted scalpel reminded her of her training days in the past. Scalpels were always her strong suit. Chapter 19. The Strongest Scalpel, 2. With the advancement of weapons technology, Baya's choice of weapon might seem unusual, but the scalpel had served her well in her 15 years of practice. There was a reason she was known as a witch doctor. Her scalpel did not only save lives but took them as well. Little yet. Jifu noticed Baya's slowing footsteps and turned around. He followed her gaze and saw the obsidian scalpel. The weapons dealer noted the pair's attention and quickly presented the item of interest. Good sir, your granddaughter has a good eye. This is the latest design carved from dark crystal. It's definitely. While the man was explaining the backstory of the weapon, Baya weighed the weapon in her hands and tested her grip. As expected from a man of his age, Jifu began the process of haggling. The price was lowered from 10 gold coins to 1 silver coin, yet the old man was still asking for a better deal. Oh, this, come on, I can't be making a loss. 1 silver coin, take it or leave it, the weapons dealer groaned. I'll give you 1 gold coin for both the scalpel and that sword. Jifu pulled out a shiny gold coin and showed it to the weapons dealer. Without waiting for the man's response, Jifu grabbed the silver sword on the table and replaced it with a gold coin. No. Sir, that's not possible. That sword is a mystic weapon. It's worth 10 gold coins at least. I'll throw in the scalpel for free, the weapons dealer argued. Jifu did not give up. 3 gold coins. 8. Nothing less. 5. No. No. 8 or nothing, give me back the sword, the weapons dealer cried out. He had never met such an unrelenting customer. As the two men were arguing heatedly about the price, a young girl in a red dress walked up to the stall. In a supercilious tone, she said, "Boss, I'll take the scalpel. For 10 gold coins." The girl looked to be around 14 or 15 years old. She walked toward the stall with an air of authority, surrounded by a posse of underlings. The weapons dealer's attention was immediately stolen by the new customer. "Oh, Lady Yun. Are you saying you'll be paying 10 gold coins for the handcrafted scalpel?" His shift in focus was understandable. The girl before them was Yun Mengmeng, the third miss of the Yun family who governed Tong City. She stood above everyone else in the social ladder within the city. "Yes. Wrap it up nicely, I want it as a gift for someone," Yun Mengmeng said to the weapons dealer. She angled her head to her handmaid, silently instructing her to retrieve the money. The weapons dealer smiled handsomely. "Of course. Just give me a moment." Baya and Jifu's presence at the weapons stall was completely disregarded. The weapons dealer reached out to Baya. "Little girl, please return the blade. It's not yours." A frown appeared on Jifu's face, but before he could speak, Baya stepped forward and said in a calm tone, "This scalpel is mine." She hid the blade in her sleeves. She wanted the scalpel. Nonsense. Did you not hear what the young miss said? She's paying 10 gold coins for it, said the handmaid, "Little one." Baya's insolence was an opportunity for her to prove her loyalty to her lady. She would have put this country bumpkin in her place. Chapter 20. The Strongest Scalpel, 3. Baya ignored the handmaid's outburst. She grabbed the gold coin and returned it to Jifu. "Grandpaji, didn't we say we'll pay 1 silver coin for the scalpel? We don't need the sword." Little yet. The sword Jifu eyed was meant for Baya as well. He did not expect to run into trouble while browsing for weapons in the marketplace. He glanced at Baya. A moment later, he decided it was better to follow her lead and retrieve the silver coin. The sword was returned to its original position on the table. "This, old man, didn't you hear? I don't want your silver. Please tell your granddaughter to return the scalpel. Our lady here has paid 10 gold coins for it." "You don't want to offend her," the weapons dealer whispered into Jifu's ears. He was offering them sound advice. Baya ignored the man's advice and said, "Grandpaji, leave the coin and let's go." She took the silver coin from Jifu's hands and dropped it onto the table. The pair turned to leave. Baya did not spare Yun Mengmeng a glance. With her patience wearing thin, Yun Mengmeng shouted, "Stay where you are. The guards that accompanied the girl marched forward and surrounded Baya and Jifu. Tisk, tisk. Do you peasants know who you're talking to? You're stepping on the wrong toes. Lady Yun here is the little witch of Tong City. Lady Yun's a prodigy. She's a 7th rank practitioner at the age of 15. She'll definitely be a mystic warrior by the time she enters the erudition trials in 5 years. She's King Yun's prodigy. The commotion at the weapons stall attracted the attention of nearby vendors and passers-by. Living up to her nickname, the little witch, Yun Mengmeng, gave her orders. Arrest these ill-mannered peasants. The weapons dealer tried to persuade Jifu. Come on, just leave the scalpel behind and apologize to the lady. You don't want to end up in Tong City's jail cell. As the crowd gathered around them, a smirk appeared on Bai's lips. Her training with the scripture of Bai rewarded her with enhanced sensation and other skills which she was not able to practice due to their constant traveling. She was very keen to try out her new offensive abilities. Step aside. Despite her eagerness to use her newfound skills, Baya did not want to appear savage. If they heeded her request, she would not raise a hand against them. Unhappy that her dramatic outburst was ignored, the handmaid shouted at the guards, "Why are you just standing there?" The lady said to arrest them. The 4 burly men moved. Among them, there were 2 9th rank practitioners, 1 7th ranker and another 8th ranker. A group with this composition would be regarded as a strong team, especially when all 4 members moved at once. Their opponents were a young girl who appeared malnourished and an unfortunate old man. The onlookers gave the pair condoling looks. There was no doubt they would be captured by the guards. Their toast. Just as Jifu contemplated which 2 men he should take on, something unbelievable happened. Chapter 21. A smackdown. In a flurry of motion, Baya had the 4 strong men in a bind. Jifu could not believe his eyes, the girl was beside him just moments ago. Like a flash of lightning. Splatters. Red splatters. Blood gushed from the knees and ankles of the 4 men, followed by a series of thuds. The 4 tough-looking men fell to the ground and knelt before Jifu. There were no exceptions, even the 2 9th rank practitioners fell to their knees. The crowd was silent. What an unexpected turn of events. Most of the spectators did not comprehend what just happened. All they saw was the end result, 4 tough men crumpled on the ground. Wow, what just happened? Did someone make a move? It must be the old man. Is he a mystic warrior? Whoa. All eyes fell onto Jifu, who looked equally confused. The onlookers might not have seen what truly happened, but Jifu had a clearer view. Jifu witnessed Baya rush forward with her new obsidian scalpel in hand. In a split second, her blade sliced through the flesh of the 4 men and severed their ligaments. Ah! My legs. My legs. When the men realized what happened, it was too little too late. The cuts were accurate, aimed to disable the meridians. No. My legs. I can't move them. No. No, the grimness of the situation hit them as they made efforts to move their legs. Meridians were essential to every practitioner, especially those that ran along the limbs. While one could heal a physical injury and regain normal movement, a severed meridian would hinder training and meditation, making cultivation impossible. An old, scraggly man stepped forward from the crowd and pointed his palm at Bayet. There was no hesitation in his accusation. What a cruel girl. You should be punished. His words were accompanied by something else. A large serpent materialized from the center of his palm. The snake spirit sped toward Bayet with its jaws wide open. Mystic warrior, shouted someone in the crowd. Only a mystic warrior could materialize their mystic energy into an attack. Jifu managed to react to the incoming attack. Bastard! How dare you! Bathed in a golden light, Jifu punched in the direction of the snake spirit. A lion's outline roared toward the shadowy serpent. Another mystic warrior. It's the old man from the countryside. The crowd was exhilarated. The serpent picked up speed mid-air and charged ferociously toward Bayet. No, Jifu's eyes widened. He was ready to reveal his hidden power in order to protect Bayet. Before he could unleash the energy within his body, he saw young Bayet in the air. At the same moment, the snake spirit brushed past her dangling feet. Bayet did not sustain any injuries. The attack missed her completely. A collective gasp of disbelief was heard from the crowd. Eyes wide and mouths agape, they watched the levitating girl. There was a green aura surrounding Bayet. She resembled a magnificent bird, an untouchable beauty in the air. Chapter 22. Through the back door. Thud. Bayet's descent from the air stirred the crowd. Clap, clap. A thunderous applause erupted from the crowd. Everyone stared at Bayet in amazement. Most could tell that Bayet was not a mystic warrior. She looked to be 15 at most, but she was able to dodge an attack from a mystic warrior. Amazing. Is she planning to enter the erudition trials? Spectacular indeed. Fending off an attack from a mystic warrior at such a young age. What more when she becomes a mystic warrior? Such adaptability in battle. She would do well even in the courts. Another talent coming from the state of King Yun. Commentaries were abound from the onlookers. Due to the erudition trials, there were a number of notable practitioners gathered in Tong City. These people, alongside Jifu, knew Bai Ye was responsible for the initial attack on the four men. After recovering from the surprise, Jifu went to Bai Ye and asked, "Little Ye, are you hurt?" Bai Ye shook her head but Jifu remained concerned. He checked her pulse, worried the mystic warrior's attack might have damaged her internal organs. Elder Hong, Yun Mengmeng respectfully greeted the old man who had summoned the snake spirit. Elder Hong? As in the newly hired second-rank practitioner, Hong Kigwan. It must be. I hear the Lord has been hiring mystic warriors to protect Lady Yun. Oh my. I foresee some upcoming drama. As the chatter continued among the crowd, the puzzle pieces fell into place. The background of the scraggly old man was brought to light. Who are you? The man who was revealed to be Hong Kigwan asked after giving Yun Mengmeng a nod. He did not look happy. Hong Kigwan was being paid good money to protect Yun Mengmeng. The street encounter was his first fight under the new employment and the end result was disappointing, to say the least. A second-ranked mystic warrior outmaneuvered by a mere practitioner. It was humiliating. How could he continue living in Tong City with this smear on his reputation? Banruo Village's village chief. Jifu gave Hong Kigwan a cold, unflinching stare. Bai Ye was unharmed but the near hit was enough to evoke a feeling of hatred for Hong Kigwan. Hearing the answer, Hong Kigwan let out a laugh. Ha! A village chief? You pamper the young too much. How dare you raise a hand against Lady Yun? Guards, get the young one. I'll handle the old man myself. Suddenly. Banruo Village. A young man dressed in an official robe hopped down from a nearby tavern. The official robe he wore featured animal prints. He spoke in an eager tone, "Are you Elder Jifu? Master Qin's grand-uncle. And who might you be, good sir?" Jifu asked suspiciously. The young man gave off the aura of a third-rank mystic warrior, and the official robe he was wearing suggested he was a fourth-rank general of the empire. Mu Yunzhen speaking, a subordinate of Master Qin, and executive officer of the upcoming erudition trials. It is my pleasure to meet you, sir, the young man said earnestly. At the end of his introduction, he knelt before Jifu as a sign of respect. The gesture was significant. The fourth-rank general of the Tianqian Empire was kneeling before a village chief. Chapter 23. A dumb lady's death wish. Whoa, the crowd let out a collective gasp. They're from Banruo village. No wonder. My. It's Master Qin Ban's relative. King Yun houses many hidden talents. The Yun family's little witch might be barking up the wrong tree. The mention of Banruo village had the crowd excited. The people looked at Jifu and Bai Ye with admiration and respect. Bai Ye was speechless. It never occurred to her how big of a name Banruo village was in the empire. Jifu took a hurried step forward and helped Mu Yunzhen up. Come now, I'm undeserving of such a gesture. I'm just a lowly village chief, please, stand. Mu Yunzhen stood but kept his posture submissive. You're too humble. Then, he turned to look at the young girl beside Jifu. Bai Ye finally had a good look at the man. He had a pair of arched eyebrows that accentuated his attractive face. She bowed respectfully as the man looked at her. This young lady is. The commotion in the streets had drawn Mu Yunzhen's attention and the young girl's skills had thoroughly surprised him. Mu Yunzhen assessed the young girl. She was definitely not an ordinary child to have Jifu as her personal escort. Ah, little Ye here is our village prodigy. This. Could we continue this conversation somewhere else? Jifu suggested after considering the circumstances of Bai Ye's participation in the erudition trials. Such deals should not be discussed in public. The suggestion was amenable to Mu Yunzhen and he immediately invited them to the tavern. The young man did not acknowledge either Yun Mengmeng or Hong Kigwan who stood a few feet away. As Bai Ye and Jifu turned to leave, Yun Mengmeng shrieked, "Hold up! We have unfinished business here." She was not used to being sidelined. Hong Kigwan quickly intervened. "Mengmeng, please step down." He was shocked to see a fourth-ranked official of the empire in Tong City, a general no less. The lord of Tong City was a mere seventh-ranked official. In the Tianqian Empire, military positions outranked administrative positions. Therefore, Hong Kigwan knew better than to pick a fight when Mu Yunzhen was siding with their enemy. Moreover, if he had known Jifu was the grand-uncle of Qin Ban, he would have backed out immediately. All Hong Kigwan hoped for was to be erased from Mu Yunzhen and Jifu's memories. He wanted nothing more than for them to leave. Things did not go the way he wished. Yun Mengmeng was signing their death warrant. At that moment, Hong Kigwan regretted taking up the job to protect the dumb lady. She was going to get him killed. Step down. Yun Mengmeng retorted angrily. She glared at Mu Yunzhen and said in a disgruntled tone, "Brother Mu, it's me, Mengmeng. Please hear me out on this. Hong Kigwan wondered if he could just abandon the lady and make a run for it. Master Mew, so what if the old man is Master Qin's relative? They can't simply mistreat our lady. Look at our guards, they're all hurt because of them. Master Mew, justice must be served, Yun Mingmeng's handmaid Little Wan chimed in, skewing the narrative in support of her lady. Chapter 24. Partaking in the assessment. Baya stared at Yun Mengmeng and wondered, how dense can you be? It was clear Baya had the support of the high-ranking official Mu Yunzhen, and yet the girl would not give up. Heedless of the precarious state of affairs, Yun Mengmeng ignored Hong Kigwan's warning glances and knelt before Mu Yunzhen. Her arrogance was replaced with shameless self-pity. Brother Mu, this vendor has witnessed the whole exchange. Please ask him yourself. With that, Yun Mengmeng pointed her finger at a man in the crowd. The spotlight was suddenly on the weapons vendor. He was a mere commoner who did not wish to be involved. He did not want to offend Yun Mengmeng, but he was also afraid he would make unnecessary enemies. Sensing the man's hesitation, Yun Mengmeng gave him the evil eye and yelled, clarify the situation. The weapons vendor shivered as he recalled how Yun Mengmeng dealt with people who crossed her. The people from Banruo village seemed like a sensible bunch, unlike Tong City's little witch. He decided to speak in favor of Lady Yun. Mu Yunzhen glanced at the weapons vendor and knew the man was unreliable. There's no need for an explanation. I was witness to the ordeal. He wore an annoyed expression as he said to Yun Mengmeng, I won't interfere with your business, but be mindful to exercise moderation. Yun Mengmeng was about to argue her case. I shall write to the Ministry of Civil Appointments when I return to the courts. Tong City is due for a change in governance, Mu Yunzhen remarked vaguely before he signaled for Jifu and Baya to follow him. The young man's words were a verbal slap to Yun Mengmeng's face. Although she was an unruly brat, she was aware of the power Mu Yunzhen held in the courts. A message from him could threaten her father's position as the lord of the city. Mu Yunzhen was not only a fourth-rank general, he was also a direct descendant of the four noble families in Imperial City. At that moment, Yun Mengmeng knew she made a big mistake. Hong Kigwan shook his head and advised, we should inform the lord. The sooner he knows, the better. Secretly he was glad Mu Yunzhen had overlooked his attack on the little girl. At her wit's end, Yun Mengmeng nodded in agreement. Right. My father will know what to do. That man can't just do as he pleases. Let's leave. Without sparing a moment, Hong Kigwan escorted Yun Mengmeng away from the marketplace. The wounded guards crawled back to the estate as fast as they could. Meanwhile, in the tavern, Jifu had conveyed the favor needed from Mu Yunzhen for Baya to enter the erudition trials. Mu Yunzhen agreed wholeheartedly. That won't be a problem. I have no doubt Lady Bai is gifted. I'll have her registration done tonight. You only have to bring her to the halls when the assessment begins. Where should I deliver the form? Jifu did not expect the man to agree so readily. A broad smile bloomed on his face. Ha ha ha. I like your efficiency, young man. Have it delivered to Yunqing Inn. Thank you. It is my pleasure, Elder Jifu. Mu Yunzhen smiled and made a toast to Jifu. The young man was an avid fan of Qin Ban and asked many questions about the warrior as they dined. Baya had little interest in alcohol. She tended to her spiritual energy as she ate her food. Based on her observations during the stress fight, her mystic power was equivalent to a fifth-rank practitioner and her fighting capability was above average. In that case. Chapter 25. Breaking off the engagement, 1. 5 days went by quickly. Baya found it odd that there was no follow-up from Yun Mengmeng. The peace did not seem right. With that worry in mind, Baya arrived at the assessment hall with Jifu. Mu Yunzhen got news of their arrival and quickly went out to personally escort them. He greeted warmly, Elder Ji, Lady Bai. With him in the lead, Baya and Jifu skipped the queue to enter the inner assessment hall. Look. It's Master Mu. Is the assessment starting? The appearance of Mu Yunzhen caught the attention of participants who were already inside the hall. Mu Yunzhen ignored the shouts and said apologetically, the first round of assessment has the most people, so it tends to get a bit rowdy. His only goal was to get Jifu and Baya to the dignitary table. Is it always this crowded? Baya, who kept a low profile, asked as she watched the stream of people entering the hall. By her estimates, there were 30,000 to 40,000 people gathered at the assessment hall, and Tong City was just one of the 5 registration centers in Qingyun. Baya recalled Tong City was the registration center with the smallest capacity, and already she was blown away by the amount of people. If her extrapolation was correct, there were at least 200,000 16 to 25-year-olds joining the erudition trials. It was rare to hear the girl speak up, so Mu Yunzhen did his best to provide a detailed answer. This is not the most we've seen in Tong City. The highest participation was 80,000, but not many can pass the first round of assessments. Based on this year's participation, I'd say at most 1,000 will get through and obtain a participation badge. 1,000? I. Do you think I stand a chance? Bai Ye's confidence was shaken after hearing about the high failure rate. She had intentionally suppressed her mystic power to a 5th-ranked practitioner's level. She was worried if it would affect her performance during the assessments. Mu Yunzhen let out a laugh. If someone like Lady Bai failed to pass the assessments, no one from Tong City will stand a chance. You really mean that? Bai Ye had little grasp of her own capabilities. Most definitely. Mu Yunzhen had never seen a prodigy this humble. If one of the Imperial City ladies had Bai Ye's capabilities, their noses would be high in the air. That's reassuring, Bai Ye said. From Mu Yunzhen's words, she figured the participants who got through the assessments were nothing special. If so, she would not have to worry too much about competition. All she wanted was to find the dark spiritual energy for the little furball in her body. The other participants would be enraged if they heard her thoughts. Nothing special? Who gave her such confidence? At that moment, Yun Mengmeng, who had a bone to pick with Bai Ye, stepped into the inner assessment hall. She saw Mu Yunzhen chatting happily with Bai Ye. The warm smile on the man's face infuriated Yun Mengmeng. He had been incredibly cold toward her 5 days ago, yet here he was smiling at Bai Ye. Despicable. Utterly despicable. In the next moment, a jealous Yun Mengmeng rushed toward Bai Ye, arm wound back to deliver a slap. Chapter 26. Breaking off the engagement, 2. Bai Ye was not an easy target. As Yun Mengmeng closed in, Bai Ye was already ready to counterattack. However, before Bai Ye could make a move, Mu Yunzhen stepped in to intercept the blow. He pushed Yun Mengmeng aside. A loud crash was heard as she tumbled across the floor. If Bai Ye was the first to strike, Yun Mengmeng would have lost an arm. She squinted her eyes at the collapsed body, curious. Mu Yunzhen's counter was gentlemanly, so it was odd that Yun Mengmeng laid sprawled on the floor. Trouble was in the air. Sister. Mengmeng. Concerned voices were slowly descending upon the girl on the floor. They belonged to the lord and lady of the Yun family. Alongside them was their second daughter, Yun Yingying. Mengmeng, let me check if you're injured, the wife of Lord Yun, Hao Bilian, said loudly. The commotion caught the attention of numerous bystanders. Yun Mengmeng played her part effortlessly. She was sobbing dramatically as a crowd gathered. Mu Yunzhen's eyebrows knitted together. He had softened the blow to avoid any further reprisal, but the situation backfired unexpectedly. Brother Mu. Don't you know Bai Ye, my cousin? She's engaged. You can't. The both of you, Yun Mengmeng stuttered as she spoke, taking the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. Her words carried an accusatory tone, as if Mu Yunzhen was fooling around with her married cousin. Moreover, the tear tracks down Yun Mengmeng's face, and the preceding violence implied Mu Yunzhen had unfinished business with her as well. At that point, Bai Ye realized Yun Mengmeng was not dumb. She underestimated Yun Mengmeng's skill for the dramatics. Yun Mengmeng was an amusing character, Bai Ye could appreciate that. However, when did she become her cousin? Enough. Lord Yun, what are your intentions? Frustrated, Mu Yunzhen ignored the spectacle before him and turned to Yun Siqian. Before Yun Siqian could speak, a clear voice rang out beyond the Yun family crowd. Brother Mu, it's been a while. The voice came from a man dressed in a light green robe. The Yun family shuffled around to let the charming man pass. Qing Xiantian walked through the parted crowd, catching the eyes of ladies all around. He was, as Bai Ye remembered, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Brother Cheng. Mu Yunzhen was surprised to see Qing Xiantian. Here I am. We last saw each other in Imperial City. My invitation for Brother Mu to visit King Yun is always open, yet official business keeps you busy. Now that official business has brought you here, I'm delighted to see little Ye keeping you company, Qing Xiantian said with a faint smile on his lips. Qing Xiantian shifted his gaze to Bai Ye and said affectionately, Little Ye, why have you come to Tong City? And without informing either me or your uncle. Then, he gave Mu Yunzhen a contrived explanation. My apologies, Brother Mu, I should explain, Little Ye is my fiancé. We had a minor disagreement and... A dark expression crossed Mu Yunzhen's face. He did not like the implication, but before he could open his mouth, Hao Bilian, who was cradling Yun Mengmeng, turned to Bai Ye and began her lecture. Little Ye, I don't mean ill, but look at the mess you've made. Your grandfather had just passed away and you're out here running amok. Learning unknown techniques and fooling around with eligible bachelors. You're engaged to Qing Xiantian. You unruly. Chapter 27. Breaking off the engagement, 3. That's enough. Little Ye is still young. There's no need to be so harsh. Qing Xiantian interjected as if he could not stand listening to Hao Bilian slander Bai Ye. He approached Bai Ye, attempting to pull her over. Little Ye, why don't you come with me? If you wish to enter the erudition trials, we can come back when you're of age. Come now. Ji Fu noticed Qing Suanation's approach and quickly stepped between the man and Bai Ye. Hold up. Jifu was not just an ordinary village chief. He knew what Qing Xiantian was after. The unexpected drama that was playing out did not distract him from his purpose. Qing Xiantian and the Yun family were plotting to take Bai Ye away. The Yun family. Elder Ji, find fault with me however you will, but you cannot stand between little Ye and I. We've known each other since childhood and were engaged 10 years ago, everyone in Banruo village can attest to that. Respectfully, I must ask you to step aside and allow us to be reunited. I beg you, Qing Xiantian said in the sincerest tone he could conjure. Then, he knelt before Jifu. What's going on? The crowd was confused as to what was happening, but soon someone spoke up. As the playwright of the drama, Qing Xiantian had planted an agitator among the people. Heh, isn't it obvious? Clearly the village chief is trying to separate the engaged couple with Master Qin's support. They probably want to give the little girl to Master Mu. If an alliance is formed, Master Qin will have the Mu family's support in the imperial city. Hee. Maybe you guys didn't hear, but Master Qin and the Crown Prince are competing for the command of the Wolf Cavalry. What? This. Once the truth was revealed by the agent, the public's perception of Jifu and Mu Yunzhen deteriorated. Clap, clap, clap. As the crowd's support skewed toward one side, Bai Ye, who witnessed the whole play acted out by the Yun family and that piece of human filth, Qing Xiantian walked out from behind Jifu clapping. It took Bai Ye some time to realize who these relatives were, so to speak. Is everyone done with the drama? Young Master Qing and these, if my memory serves me right, the family who cut ties with my mother a long time ago. How shameless, Lady Hao Billion, Lord Yun Sikin, Lady Yun. Since the beginning, Bai Ye had known Qing Xiantian would never stop tracking her. Despite having Jifu's protection, Bai Ye had made her own preparations. What surprised Bai Ye was the approach Qing Xiantian employed. He was painting himself as the morally good savior in the eyes of the public while trying to kidnap her. The Yun family's involvement too was a surprise. Hee. Watch your mouth. Hao Billion shouted in defiance. She did not come here to be insulted by a young girl. Unfortunately. Shut your mouth. Bai Ye screamed back at her. She gave the older woman a cold, unflinching glare. Chapter 28. Breaking off the engagement, 4. Soon after. Hao Billion did not manage to get a word in. In a flash, Bai Ye appeared like a demon before Qing Suanation's personal bodyguard. The man was shocked by her appearance. Qing Xiantian, who had the quickest reflex, spun around. Little yet. He was too slow. Like an eagle who found its prey, Bai Ye casually tossed the bodyguard toward Mu Yunzhen. Mu Yunzhen could not wrap his mind around what was happening and almost thought it was a secret attack against him. Everything happened too fast. Mu Yunzhen had a feeling he could not keep up with Lady Bai. Speaking of which. What was she up to? Why did she toss a Qingyun guard at him? No one was sure what was going on. Jifu and the crowd were equally dumbstruck. What was the young girl trying to do? Little yet, even the calculative Qing Xiantian had no idea what Bai Ye meant to do. Young Master Qing, you said our love stretches back into our childhood. Bai Ye fielded the question with a faint smile on her face. Qing Xiantian did not see the point of the question, but he nodded. Bai Ye let out a chuckle. Right then, let us ask your personal bodyguard. Qing Suanation's eyes twitched. In an icy tone, he said, Little Ye, that's enough. We can settle our problems at home, there's no need to make a scene. Uncle. Although he had no clue what stunt Bai Ye was pulling, he knew it would not mean well for him. Yun Sikin, who had been unhelpful to Qing Xiantian thus far, immediately summoned the guards. Guards, take this lady back home. The sound of a few hundred city guards storming the assessment hall could be heard. Bai Ye also saw Hong Kiguan, the man she faced 5 days ago. Alongside him were 3 other mystic warriors, leading squads of city guards. Master Mu, as you've said, my governance of Tong City has been disappointing. My incompetence has even extended to my family matters. When this is settled, I will willingly submit my resignation letter to the Ministry of Civil Appointments, Yun Sikin said as he gestured to the Tong City guards. Mu Yunzhen frowned. Brother Mu, do not involve yourself in this, else you bring trouble to Master Qin. Qing Xiantian gave Mu Yunzhen a mental nudge as he advised. At the same moment, the Tong City guards led by Hong Kiguan were ushering the honorary guests to leave. More guards were piling into the room. The ruckus of the inner assessment hall was soon replaced by fearful silence. As the guards surrounded the area, the atmosphere within the hall became more oppressive. It was the culmination of Qing Suanation's master plan. The sob story and the misdirection of the public. It was all to ensure Qin Ban could not come after him. Qing Xiantian wanted to use the Tong City guards to stake his claim on Bai Ye and bring her back to the Qingyun estate. Chapter 29. Breaking off the engagement, 5. Lady Bai, please. Hong Kiguan marched up to Bai Ye with the city guards behind him. He oozed confidence as he knew Qingxue Nation was a well-connected man. The three mystic warriors who came with Hong Kiguan surrounded Jifu. Undoubtedly, the net Qing Xiantian laid was closing in on Bai Ye. With the public narrative controlled, Mu Yunzhen was unlikely to interfere. Once Bai Ye was captured under the guise of reclaiming a lost fiancé, it would be difficult for Qin Ban to justify making a move. Seeing how things had developed. "Master, perhaps it is time," said Yu Zhekong's bodyguard. They had been following Bai Ye since the start of her journey. The bodyguard felt Bai Ye had been unquestionably outmaneuvered. Even if she was an oddity, there was no way she could stand against an army. At that moment, the bodyguard was shocked to see a bright smile on Bai Ye's face despite the seemingly inescapable situation she was in. The smile reminded the bodyguard of a blooming flower. Bai Ye was breathtaking in that moment, her youthful beauty captivating. Beautiful like the sky, it was the best description he could think of. The man was born for the sword, so words were not his strong suit. Saliva almost dropped from his mouth when Yu Zhekong smacked him on the back, snapping him out of his daze. The bodyguard puked blood and nearly revealed their hiding spot if not for. Ping. Ping. The smiling Bai Ye had her arms open wide as she squeezed something in her palms. It was followed by a cloud of pink dust. In a matter of seconds, the whole assessment hall was bathed in pink dust. That was not all. A weird scent permeated in the air. It was a familiar scent. It smelled like. This smell. It's devil's hay, white-leaved soul grass and pink skull flower. Someone in the crowd figured out the composition. What? Many knew about devil's hay, a slow-acting poison. While leaved soul grass was a fast-acting poison and pink skull flower was a first-tier elixir known for being highly toxic. They were all goners. According to the first-ranked master alchemist from the precious alchemy, exposure to the combined poisons was lethal. If one did not consume the latest antidote from the precious alchemy within the hour, death was guaranteed. Oh. This elder got it all right. I believe that was what Master Qin said when he gave me the poison capsule and antidote, Bai Ye said innocently with a smile. The crowd let out a gasp of horror, followed by a collective sigh of relief. The fact that the poison capsule came from Qin Ban meant the content was genuine. They were all undoubtedly poisoned. However, the girl had the antidote. There was a chance for survival as the girl had the antidote. Hence, the sigh of relief. Release the antidote. The crowd was agitated after learning of the antidote's existence. Of course, there was a motive behind the mass poisoning an alchemy shop with multiple branches throughout the empire. Chapter 30. Breaking off the engagement, 6. That depends on young Master Qing and Lord Yun, Bai Ye said to the crowd. Her bright smile was still intact as she emphasized loudly. I'm young and easily spooked. We're in such an intense and high-pressure situation. I might just accidentally destroy the antidote. At that, everyone turned to look at the sweet, young girl who held the antidote capsule. Her smile was cheery and deliberate, contradicting the innocence she was proclaiming. Wait a minute. Realization dawned on everyone in the room. It was an ultimatum. If Bai Ye was forcefully removed or taken down, she would destroy the antidote and kill everyone in the process. There was a second of silence as the information was digested. The little girl's threat was a true show of power. A true witch. The third miss of the Yun family was nothing compared to this witch in sheep's clothing. For the sake of her own safety, she was willing to poison a hall full of innocents. My nephew, Yun Sekin, was backing down despite his earlier bravado. He had gathered his mystic energy and performed a rudimentary check of his body. There were signs of festering mystic energy. F***ck. Yun Sekin stared at the antidote in Bai Ye's hand. There was an urge to rush forward and grab it. There were 3,000 Tong City guards in the hall. Even if he could ride to the precious alchemy and purchase the antidotes. 3,000. He could afford to cure his family, but saving the army would cost more than his net worth. More importantly, there was no way the precious alchemy in Tong City had the latest antidote stocked and ready for a whole army. Lord Yun, time is ticking. Bai Yun reminded Yun Sekin with a grin. Back down. A pale-faced Qing Xiantian gave the order after realizing the effects of the poison. Retreat. Yun Sekin ordered without hesitation. In the end, the large army that marched in so audaciously and surrounded Bai Ye was gone without a trace. With the poison capsule and its antidote, Bai Ye was able to outmaneuver her enemies. No one was able to recognize the poison as a fake. Needless to say, the antidote in her hand was a decoy as well. Only Jifu and Bai Ye's stalker, Yu Zhekong, had an inkling of the ploy. The plot was hatched thanks to her herb-picking experience with Bai Zhan and her own knowledge of apothecary. The poison and antidote were created during her journey to Tong City. With the help of some paralyzing agents and Bai Ye's perfect execution of calming energy, the fake poison appeared real. When the last guard exited the hall, Yun Sekin turned to Bai Ye and said, "My guards have retreated. You can release the antidote now." Once the antidote was released, Yoon Seok-in and Ching Xiantian would jump into action and capture Bai Ye. Ji-fu had the same thoughts and wanted to warn Bai Ye. Before he could, a smirk was already on Bai Ye's face. There's no rush. Let us all hear about how the young master of King Yun treats his so-called childhood love and fiancé. Only then will I release the antidote. Hidden in the air, Yu Zhekong chuckled at Bai Ye's words. A skill that affects others' mystic energy. Chapter 31. Breaking off the engagement, 7. Yu Zhekong knew what Bai Ye was after. He was sure the brat had something up her sleeves and she was just patiently waiting for her plan to come to fruition. Things were getting interesting. The young girl's physique was impressive and rare blood ran in her veins. She even had talents in alchemy and apothecary. Perhaps after this trip, he would go home with the perfect solution to the problem that had been plaguing the emperor, his son's bachelor status. The thought made Yu Zhekong grin. His personal bodyguard was frightened by the grin. The bodyguard felt his heart hammering in his chest. Without hesitation, Bai Ye turned to Ching Suanation's bodyguard, whom she had dragged over to her corner of the room. She snapped her fingers beside the bodyguard's ear. The bodyguard passed out on the spot. In the next second, his eyes were wide open. Before anyone could react, Bai Ye mimicked the voice of Ching Suanation's father, the governor of King Yun, Ching Hetang. Speak, what did young Master Ching do 16 days ago in the courtyard of the Bai family house? The question prompted a twitch from Ching Xiantian. The captured bodyguard answered in a swift but coherent manner, My lord, 16 days ago, the young master allowed Lady Lu to torture and disable Lady Bai's limbs, destroying her. In a flash, Ching Suanation's arm shot out toward the bodyguard, who believed he was reporting to his lord. Crack. A loud sound echoed as Ching Xiantian made contact with the bodyguard. The bodyguard crashed into the tables and chairs reserved for the honorary guests. A trail of blood followed the bodyguard and he was ultimately buried under the rubble of debris. The man was likely dead. Many in the crowd were horrified at the sudden display of violence. Clap, clap. Bai Ye's clapping could be heard over the silence. Superb, young Master Ching. You single-handedly killed your personal bodyguard, a 9th-rank practitioner no less. What a show of power. Ji-fu joined in on the act. Young Master Ching is not only talented but also hard-handed. To strike his own bodyguard to death. Bai Ye continued her speech, a sly smile on her face. Oh, this is nothing. Young Master Ching was willing to disable his own fiancée and allow a horde of beggars to defile her. If anyone doubts my word, feel free to look into the disappearance of the beggars in the city. Yun Mengmeng, who had been silent since her dramatic tumble to the floor, spoke up in defiance. You're bullshitting. Although Yun Mengmeng was not the brightest, she could tell Bai Ye's words were turning the crowd. Yun Mengmeng wanted the little scum to be locked up in the King Yun estate. She wanted the girl away from Brother Mu. Bai Ye only chuckled in response. Oh? I'm bullshitting? Then why is a certain truth-speaking bodyguard dead? Young Master Ching, why did you kill the bodyguard? Bai Ye posed the question in a saccharine tone. Chapter 32. Breaking off the engagement, 8. What a question. Clearly, he wanted to get rid of the witness, Ji-fu said tauntingly. The murderous intent in his eyes was obscure but present. The urge to kill Ching Xiantian was strong when Ji-fu recalled Bai Ye's suffering. He only held back because the bastard did not deserve a quick death. He wanted him to suffer. That's rubbish. That's not how it is. The guard must be lying for young Master Ching to strike him down. A mad dog, he was. Yun Mengmeng truly was a master of deceit, coming up with an explanation for Ching Suanation's actions on the spot. That's right. How Billion supported Yun Mengmeng's quick-wit answer. Bai Ye snapped and growled fiercely. Shut up. In the next second, Bai Ye shed her innocent and harmless persona and said loudly, Ching Xiantian, I am not dumb. You know what you did to me. Our engagement ended when you watched Lu Mingjian sever the tendons in my limbs. Her young voice was filled with hatred and sadness. There is only hatred between us, nothing else. You will die by my hands when I'm stronger. This I swear on my blood. Bai Ye sliced her palm with her obsidian scalpel. Blood dripped from her hand as she made the oath. A blood oath from a practitioner meant only death will stop them from fulfilling their promise. Practitioners placed heavy emphasis on the paths of reincarnation, and an oath unfulfilled meant risking the wrath of higher powers. Therefore, oaths were treated with caution, more so when it involved blood. Ching Xiantian was taken aback by Bai Ye's blood oath. A part of him wondered if he had gone too far in Banruo village. The young girl who had clung onto every word he said was gone. In place was a shrewd girl filled with hatred and murderous rage. Was it a mistake? For the first time, Ching Xiantian was doubting his instincts. Another voice spoke up. Yoon Seok-in said, nonsense. Marriage is a momentous event that has implications for your future. The matchmaking was done and the pledge was made. You have no right to call off the engagement when I agree to it as your uncle. The older man's words woke Qing Xiantian from his daze. He's right. Little Ye, don't let that man you call Grandpa Ji fill your head with nonsense. When were you disabled? When were the meridians in your body severed? Look at your limbs, you're fine. That's right. I saw you dispatch my guards easily a few days ago. Disabled? Who will believe you? Yun Mengmeng joined the chorus. This was Qing Suanation's backup plan. He wanted to rightfully kidnap Bai Ye, and he was prepared to use this line of conversation to bolster credibility with the crowd. While he had expected Bai Ye to resist, he was utterly surprised by the unique stunt she pulled. Bai Ye had no proof. No evidence. It was just her words. She was resisting in vain, as no one would believe her. Qing Xiantian was sure he still had the upper hand. What are you jokesters saying? Just because Little Ye recovered, you want to spout your lies? Little Ye is just. Ji Fu's words trailed off mid-sentence when he realized the puzzle pieces did not fit. Chapter 33. Outsmarted. It was common knowledge that once a meridian was severed, there was no way to restore it. If the Empire's strongest warrior, Qin Ban, had his meridian severed, even the Empire's first-ranked master alchemist would not be able to save him. Go on. Noting that Ji Fu was tongue-tied, Qing Xiantian urged him on. Ji Fu realized he had fallen into Qing Suanation's trap. How was Bai Ye channeling her power? Ji Fu did not deign to explain. If others knew about Bai Ye's rare inheritance, there would be stronger forces coming after her. Bai Ye would not be allowed to grow her powers. Instead, she would be hunted down and kept on a leash like a prized possession. You're shameless. Ji Fu felt like puking blood. Qing Xiantian continued saying, Little Ye was an 8th rank practitioner the last I saw her, but clearly she has now surpassed that. Elder Ji, don't be coy, Bai Ye is in no way disabled. The words pricked at Ji Fu. The young man was utterly shameless. Suddenly, Bai Ye spoke up in a thoughtful tone, who said I was stronger than before. Then, she appeared before the ranking crystal, which was situated a few feet away. She channeled all her mystic power into the crystal. The next moment, a green light filled the clear crystal and traveled up its body. 5th rank. The result came as a shock to everyone. The green light on the crystal rose to the level which indicated Bai Ye was a 5th rank practitioner. 5th ranked. How was that possible? This was the girl who kicked up a storm in the streets of Tong City. Everyone knew she bested Yun Mengmeng and her guards. Furthermore, the discussion among the parties involved and the crowd hinted that Bai Ye was inherently talented. Although she was not a mystic warrior, everyone expected her to be a 9th rank practitioner. 5. The people in the room blinked and stared at the ranking crystal. The result remained unchanged. As you can see, I went from being an 8th rank to a 5th rank practitioner. Maybe I could recover because my body is still young, but if it weren't for Grandpa Qin's quick thinking, I might be thoroughly wasted. I was lucky we had Master Qin's heavenly treasure on hand, Bai Ye said resoundingly with her inner strength. She had counted on Qing Xiantian attacking her from this angle. Hence, she kept her mystic power suppressed to a 5th rankers. Mu Yunzhen, who had been looking on from the sidelines, began to speak. I remember one of old General Luo's sons had overtrained and disabled his meridians. The medication given by Master Qin helped him recover. Therefore, I'm sure the heavenly treasure from Master Qin must have helped Bai Ye's recovery. Oh! The crowd exclaimed. Who knew a severed meridian could be salvaged? The miracle story was convincing because it involved Qin Ban. There is nothing Master Qin cannot do. Was Master Qin also an alchemist? The crowd was excited. Qing Xiantian grimaced, his face was stinging from the metaphorical slap from Bai Ye. He watched as his trump card was effortlessly torn to shreds. A medicine. Chapter 34. The Master Manipulator. At that point, the bodyguard who had to endure his master's abuse was satisfied with the outcome. Although his master's taste in the fairer sex deviated from the norm, the girl he was interested in was smart. The girl's maneuver in the village could be chalked up as luck, but her situational adaptability was clearly showcased in the confrontation. The bodyguard watched in disbelief as she played the room like a fiddle. Such a smart girl. Master, the abnormal skills she demonstrated in the marketplace, do you think she did that just to bait the shameless man? Curiosity nagged at the bodyguard and he directed the question to his intelligent master. Yu Zhekong was in a good mood. He gave a monosyllable confirmation. With his theory confirmed, the bodyguard's eyes narrowed. That explains why she was calm even when thousands of Tong City guards were rushing in. Master Qin provided her with a counter for each move they played. Everything was calculated. Yu Zhekong shook his head and smiled. I'm aware of Qin Ban's abilities, and this, right here, is not one of them. The whole episode was orchestrated by the little brat with the help of Qin Ban's reputation. The bodyguard was confused. A crack was heard from inside the hall. The bodyguard shifted his attention and saw that Bai Ye had broken the antidote capsule. Then, The pink mist that enveloped the hall disappeared before everyone's eyes. Relief flooded the crowd. I apologize for taking you as hostage, but my hands were forced. I refuse to be captured by the Qing family, Baya announced to the crowd as she bowed in remorse. The truth sank in. The public perception of Baya turned from negative to positive. They no longer fear the little girl, instead she garnered sympathy from the crowd. This young lady kept to her words. Perhaps what she said is true and she is being sabotaged. You're right. The mistreatment by her fiancé is despicable. Why did young Master Qing do such a thing? And now he wants her back. Baya's initiative to administer the antidote capsule was seen as a benevolent gesture. Many expressed sympathy for her situation despite the mass poisoning that happened moments ago. Yu Zhekong was not the only person impressed by Baya's subtle manipulation and crowd control abilities. Jifu was filled with pride and admiration as he watched the new spirit host from his village stand up to her enemy's age did not limit her. The situation proceeded to a point where Jifu believed he should step in. Before he could, Baya turned to an ashen-looking Qing Xiantian and said, "You already know how I recovered from the attack. Our engagement is officially over. After all, Lady Lu is your rightful lover." Whoa. So it's young Master Qing who had an affair and tried to ruin his fiancée. He's back because he found out about her extraordinary abilities. Oh my. Young Master Qing is shameless indeed. As Baya's words rang out, a new truth spread through the crowd. At that moment. Chapter 35. A cornered dog. Masked men in black clothes rushed into the assessment hall. They gave off an air of savagery as they filed in lines. There were only a few hundred masked men, but their aura was stronger than the thousands of city guards that previously barged in. Lord Yun, bandits. You should disperse the participants, Qing Xiantian said coolly. These men were unquestionably under Qing Suanation's orders. He knew if the elegant approach failed, he would have to forcibly kidnap Bayet. The bandit attack was just a cover to avoid a confrontation with Qin Ban. Bastard. Mu Yunzhen was not an idiot. He admonished, Qing Xiantian, do you really think you can get away with this? Soldiers. At Mu Yunzhen's command, an army of heavily armored soldiers assembled neatly in the assessment hall. Their stance and formation suggested they were experienced soldiers. The summoned army was approximately 100 men strong. On each of their right arm plates, the word Tianqian was etched in red. These men belonged to the standing army of the Tianqian Empire. It's the official army of the empire. My. I hear even the weakest soldier in the standing army can kill a mystic warrior. F***ck. I'd like to see which of you decides to misbehave. Although Mu Yunzhen was not in armor, he radiated the aura of a field general. Many ladies swooned at the handsome display of masculine authority. Qing Suanation's face paled. He was out of moves. He did not expect Mu Yunzhen to have a squad of professional soldiers with him. This was not right. Based on the intel he had gathered, there was no way this was Mu Yunzhen's army. Why were these Tianqian soldiers here? Master Mu, your official rank does not allow you to command the Tianqian Empire's official army. Dispatching them for personal reasons is punishable by death, Qing Xiantian argued, unwilling to back down. It's not for personal reasons. They are here to maintain order and ensure the erudition trials proceed smoothly. These bandits are interfering with the assessment. Have no mercy. Mu Yunzhen ordered. Backed into a corner, Qing Xiantian threw caution to the wind. Hold on. They are not bandits, they are soldiers from the Qingyun estate. I'm taking my fiancée back with me and none of you can stop me. He would have Bayet. If she entered the erudition trials, he would have trouble getting to her. The look on Bayet's face when she made the blood oath frightened Qing Xiantian. He wanted to take her home and erase those bad memories. He was aware of the power residing in Bayet's body. The scripture of Bai would make her a formidable force. The scripture of Bai allowed its inheritor to unlock the unique abilities of the Bai family. Bai Zhan was known to be able to tame any beast. If he failed to subjugate Bayet, the Qing family might take her away. Qing Xiantian knew there was no turning back. He was willing to risk facing Qin Ban as long as he got Bayet. Chapter 36. Crush the scum. How dare you? Mu Yunzhen shouted in anger. He did not foresee Qing Suanation's descent into madness. The man just revealed the bandits were under his command. Did he not care about the Qing family's reputation? Master Mu, I am only here for my fiancée, not to disrupt the assessment. You have no right to pit the Tianqian army against my soldiers. Order them away. Qing Xiantian said resolutely. Qing Xiantian was fighting for the Qing family, for his future. He was acutely aware of Bayet's important role. When she matured, she would be a powerful piece that could help the Qing family rise up to match the four noble families within the century. Qing Suanation's unhelpful co-conspirator, Yun Siqian, hurriedly came to support him. Young Master Qing is right, Master Mu. This is a private matter between two families. A few young men from the crowd hollered angrily, "Are you deaf? Lady Bai already said the engagement is off. She's no longer your fiancée." "Yeah. What's wrong with you? The lady has suffered enough under your hands and you want to take her back with you? Do you plan to kill her? What a scumbag. To think that I once thought of young Master Qing as my idol. Ugh. I want to puke." The disapproving chatter spread through the crowd. Qing Xiantian had never done anything this humiliating in public, but he was willing to sacrifice his reputation for Bai Ye's capture. "What are you waiting for? Take her." Qing Xiantian ordered again. The stunned soldiers snapped out of their confusion and went after Bai Ye. Jifu glanced at Mu Yunzhen. He was thinking of a backup plan in case the general chose to not step in. Mu Yunzhen did not disappoint. He gave the order. "Kill." The Tianqian army moved in unison as the soldiers drew their weapons. The first blow was delivered synchronously. A single strike took out approximately 100 Qingyun soldiers. The standing army was not to be fooled with. Qing Suanation's expression darkened. "Mu Yunzhen. You are abusing your power." Mu Yunzhen was an army man through and through. Once his mind was made up, there was little that could sway him. "Kill. Master Mu, you are throwing away your bright future. My nephew has said he will not interfere with the assessment. He just wants his fiancée. This is a personal matter." Yun Sikin said agitatedly. He knew only bad things awaited him if Qing Xiantian failed. "Kill." Mu Yunzhen did not back down. He believed his attack was justified. Qing Xiantian had simply crossed the line. After learning that Lady Bai was dear to Qin Ban, Mu Yunzhen decided there was no way he would abandon her. He was loyal to Master Qin. Previously, he stayed his hand because Qing Xiantian had the moral high ground. Mu Yunzhen did not want to bring trouble to Master Qin by resorting to violence. This attack against Qing Xiantian would only tarnish Mu Yunzhen's own reputation, something he did not mind. Suddenly, Bai Ye shouted from the sidelines, "Wait." She pulled out a jade badge and lifted it for everyone to see. "I have the participation badge, so anyone who is trying to take me away is disrupting the erudition trials." Chapter 37. The Frightening Prince Ju. At Bai Ye's words, the crowd turned to look at Bai Ye, or more specifically, at the jade badge in Bai Ye's hand. Even the aloof Tianqian soldiers who were eager to spill more blood stopped in their tracks, their eyes locked onto the participation badge. At that moment, a humming sound echoed through the hall. When Bai Ye revealed her participation badge, the ranking crystal began resonating and glowing. Clouds of green smoke enveloped the crystal and the jade participation badge. The most surprising was, the green smoke was coalescing into the shape of a dragon which curled up into the character 9. The public did not understand the significance of the character. Those with military backgrounds, Mu Yunzhen and the Tianqian soldiers, knew what the display meant. Mu Yunzhen was the first to react. He raced toward Bai Ye, who was still holding up the jade badge, and knelt down. "All hail Prince Ju." His greeting was followed by a uniform salute from the Tianqian army. "All hail Prince Ju." At the same moment, Yun Sikin felt his legs give out. He stared at the jade badge in Bai Ye's hand in disbelief. The sense of dread consumed him. He was not alone. Qing Suanation's legs were trembling. "All hail Prince Ju. All hail Prince Ju." Everyone in the assessment hall fell to their knees. Bai Ye was taken aback by the sudden commotion. She stared at the billowing smoke dragon above her that spelled the character 9. She was speechless. Prince Ju. Was this the same prince she heard about in stories? Prince Ju was. Prince Ju has control over the vast majority of the army. He's the Empire's demon prodigy. To think that he came to Qingyun and chose Lady Bai for the erudition trials. Oh my! This is exciting. Lady Bai must be incredibly talented to be selected by Prince Ju. How? This is a good sign for Qingyun. We can definitely crush the other states this round. Excitement thrummed through the crowd. Even the honorary guests, composed of mainly the elderly, were blushing as if they were meeting their first crush. "Apologies for my earlier rudeness, I did not realize Lady Bai was a seed participant," Mu Yunzhen said apologetically to Bai Ye. The jade badge made him see her as an equal. Confused, Bai Ye asked, "Seed participant?" Mu Yunzhen explained kindly, "A seed participant is someone who can join the erudition trials without going through the talent and skill assessments." A moment later, he turned to look at Qing Xiantian, who was pale as a sheet. "Which also means anyone who tries to take you away is interfering with the erudition trials." Qing Suanation's eyelid twitched. Mu Yunzhen was right, he was done for. His plans were in tatters. "Take down all these bandits and scum," Mu Yunzhen ordered. The soldiers from Qingyun wisely surrendered. Yun Sikin abandoned his plans to call the Tong City guards for help. Bai Ye had a frown on her face. The character, in Yu Zhekong's name, also means the number 9. Chapter 38. Missing the Prince. Baya knew the man she met in the forest was someone noteworthy. After all, an outstanding person like him could not be a mere commoner. The truth was hard to swallow when she found out who he really was. The prince is barely 20 years old, but he has the command of the Tianqian Empire's military. He managed to win over the generals and soldiers. Rumor has it Prince Ju is a demon prodigy who mastered all 9 disciplines. He is rankless, but they say he can take on Qin Ban in a fair fight. I heard. Baya and Jifu were being escorted by 10 soldiers from the Tianqian army. She listened in on the chatter as they made their way to the inn. At the end of their journey, Baya let out a huff. How are the rumors even possible? They're exaggerating. No, they're not, Jifu spoke up beside her. He wondered how the girl met the prince. Little yet, when did you come across Prince Ju's jade badge? Jifu assumed one of the prince's scouts noticed Baya and gave her the badge. Little did he know, the badge was personally given by Yu Zhekong himself. The prince had even hinted at bringing Baya into the family. Baya wondered how Jifu would react if he knew. Would he be pleasantly surprised or utterly horrified? Jifu's question put Baya in a tight spot. She mumbled an incoherent reply. She was not willing to reveal the truth of how the prince had seen her naked on a tree. It was for the sake of survival, but it was difficult to look back on the event without some degree of shame. As she was fighting for her life, the man had been silently watching her struggle. She could not help but feel some dislike for the handsome prince. She felt like metaphorically kicking a hornet's nest. The opportunity soon came. When she entered her room at the inn, she found the devilish man lying in her bed. There was a faint smile on his face as he stared at her. F***ck. Baya almost swore. She did her best to calm herself, but before her heart rate could stabilize, the man approached her. He leaned in and Baya thought he was going to devour her. His face was unnecessarily close to hers. What frustrated her the most was, once again she was unable to move. Did you miss me? Yu Zhekong said with a soft chuckle. He watched as the girl's eyes went from panic to calm within seconds. He gave her an affectionate rub on the head as if she was his pet. Baya asked in a calm voice, weren't we supposed to meet at Imperial City? Having experienced the immobilization effect before, she was not as startled this round. She was being held in place by a man who was rumored to be the god of death himself, a prince who ruled many and only answered to one. There was really no point in struggling. Missed you all of a sudden, thought I'd drop by, Yu Zhekong said with a smile. His slender finger brushed past the girl's long eyelashes. He found her eyes to be very attractive. There was a hint of everything in them, wisdom, indifference, calm, pride. He had never seen eyes that spoke to him as much as hers. The eyes rolled around in disbelief. I'm speaking the truth. Little yet, you are too precious. I found myself missing you when I left, so I came back, Yu Zhekong said earnestly. After those words, he leaned in closer toward Baya's lips. Chapter 39. You are mine. Baya felt her body tense, but Yu Zhekong leaned in close and breathed in her scent. He grinned as he pulled her static body into a hug, as if she was a life-sized doll. Baya felt shivers up her spine and could not resist asking, can you release me? Her words were ignored as Yu Zhekong's hands continued to caress her head and back. His wandering hands pressed and pinched her body but did not travel to the forbidden regions. Baya thanked her lucky stars. The fondling went on for some time. Baya's expression darkened as she wondered if the man was actually a pedophile. The invention of human-sized dolls had yet to arrive in the century, so. Prince Ju, are you done? The fondling had gone on for 15 minutes and Baya was losing her patience. Oh. Mad? Yu Zhekong asked with a satisfied smirk. The fire in her eyes captivated him. Baya would be furious if she knew Yu Zhekong was intentionally pinching her to observe the changing expressions in her eyes. Baya took a deep breath to calm herself. She came to the conclusion that she would have to strike first before he immobilized her in their next encounter. Fine, I'll stop. As if sensing she was at her limit, the pinching stopped. However, in the next second, Yu Zhekong lifted her at her waist and tossed her onto the bed. Anger and shock flashed in Baya's eyes. Before she could react, her body was pressed against the tall frame of Yu Zhekong. The position they were in was undoubtedly suggestive. What made Baya even more incensed was, from today onwards, you are mine, remember that, Yu Zhekong whispered into her ear as his hand caressed her tensed waist. What did he mean? Did she unknowingly sell her body in exchange for the Jade participation badge? Don't embarrass me during the erudition trials, Yu Zhekong said. The words made Baya breathe a sigh of relief. She was glad her fears were proven wrong. Don't worry. Baya believed she had the skills and abilities to adapt and survive the trials. Confident, aren't we? Yu Zhekong treated her like a doll he could stroke and hug shamelessly. There was an angry voice in Baya's heart demanding for the man's arms to be amputated. She decided she would do it the next time they met. Her body was not a plaything to be fondled with. Baya bottled up the anger in her heart and replied amiably, "Why else would you choose me?" The answer pleased Yu Kong. He tightened his hold on Baya, forcing her to feel his chest expanding as a peal of laughter escaped his throat. The low rumble of his laugh was sexy. To make things worse, the soft silk fabric between them allowed Baya to feel his defined muscles. His laughter was incredibly close to her face. She could even smell a distinct fragrance coming from the man. Baya willed herself to hold her breath. She did not want to fall under the devil's spell. When the laughter died down, Yu Kong spoke into her ear, "I know you're looking for dark spiritual energy. At the final stage for the trials, there is an ancient tomb." The words caught Baya by surprise. Chapter 40. The Peerless Prodigy. Search thoroughly for it. Don't disregard my good faith, Yu Kong said. Then, he nuzzled against Baya's eye. Baya was caught off guard. Her right eye was being affectionately attacked by the erratic Prince Ju's lips. She resigned to her fate as her body was still immobile. For the dark spiritual energy, she would tolerate the man. After Yu Kong gave both her eyes the same treatment, he released his hold on her. "It's about time for me to take my leave. Don't miss me too much. We'll meet again in Imperial City." Baya had no love for the baffling prince, none whatsoever. She would have avoided using the jade badge if it meant not involving Mu Yunsan. She did not like to owe people favors. She knew nothing good would come from the gift and she was right. It brought her a round of unwelcome fondling. She wondered if Prince Ju was sick in the head. Hearing silence, Yu Kong laid back down on the bed. He leaned in closer to Baya, expecting a response. "Yes, Prince Ju," Baya answered with a frown. Satisfied, Yu Kong nodded but did not leave. His eyes roamed across Baya's body, as if assessing an animal for slaughter. The intensity of his gaze made her skin crawl. In that moment, she believed what the little furball had said to her: the man would certainly devour them. Yu Kong took one last look at the myriad of emotions flashing through Baya's eyes before getting up from the bed, satisfied. Don't die." Those were the devil's last words before he disappeared in a flash of light. Some moments passed before Baya sat up from the bed. The first thing she did was to reach for the water. She gulped down a few cups worth of water. Yu Kong did not do anything untoward, but Baya was constantly aware of the immense power he wielded. He could flatten her whenever he wanted. Baya felt as if she had just ran out of a tiger's cave and into a wolf's den. She took a deep breath to center herself. Blaming her misfortune on her weakness, she quickly seated herself on the bed and began her training. If she had Yu Kong's power, Qing Xiantian would be dead. She would be able to roam free in Qingyun and get to the bottom of her grandfather's death. The little furball would not hesitate to tell her the truth. In this world, power dictated logic. Baya was exempted from the 2 assessments that were being carried out in Tong City. With the Tianqian army's protection, the days passed by rather peacefully. The capture of his soldiers had Qing Xiantian leaving Tong City with his tail between his legs. As for Yunsikin and his family, all they had waiting for them was a dismissal letter from the courts. Baya was the talk of the street. Word about her spread through the city. "I hear Tong City has a 15-year-old prodigy. A 5th-rank practitioner, but she beat up some mystic warriors. That's some exaggeration. I don't believe you. You're not up to date with the news." He's right, the prodigy is a candidate selected by Prince Ju himself. When the 2 assessments were over, Baya's name was worshipped by the young people of Tong City. Unknown to them, Baya had spent the month training and she was no longer a 5th ranker. Instead, she had advanced to Chapter 41, 9th Grade Mystical Learner. Chapter 41, 9th Grade Mystical Learner. Translator, 549690339. 9th Grade Mystical Learner. Bang. At this moment, the aura in Baya's body exploded again, once again releasing a sour smell. She immediately jumped into the bath barrel that the waiter had prepared. In the past month, the inn's waiter had already found out that Baya was a young lady who liked to shower madly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, Baya, who had just emerged from the water, looked a little regretful. "It's the 3rd time, but I still can't condense mystical chi in my danshan. I still can't break through to the mystical warrior stage. It seems that I can only go to the ultimate selection field to find some spiritual medicine to help." With this regret, Baya washed up and got dressed, then went out to the inn's hall on time to meet with Jifu and the 10 soldiers of the Heavenly Mystery Army. "Little Yair, you're finally out. Come, let Grandpa Ji take a look." In the past month, Baya had been cultivating day and night, and his meal times were all random. Therefore, Jifu had only seen her twice. "Grandpa Ji." Baya pinched his nose apologetically. After examining her, Jifu said with a smile, "Not bad, you look good. It seems that you have made some progress in your cultivation?" Yes, there's been some progress. Baya was a little disappointed because he had failed to break through to the mystical warrior stage 3 times. Ha ha ha, it's good that there's progress, not bad. Don't ask too much of yourself, work and rest must be balanced. In the future, don't cultivate hard outside, and when you have nothing to do, go out to the streets to play more like other girls, don't push yourself too far. Jifu warned him with a heavy heart. He had actually wanted to say these words to White Knight for a long time, but he had never had the chance. The 2 times they had met in a hurry, Baya had been like a hungry ghost reincarnated, eating like crazy, and after eating, he looked so sleepy that he wanted to sleep. All right, he said. Baya also knew that she was a little anxious, but she could still control herself. She knew her bottom line. Jifu was relieved to see Baya's serious promise. He continued, your grandfather has been buried and is now in peace. When it's convenient for you in the future, you can come back and offer incense to him. Everyone will take care of him, so don't worry. Yes. Baya nodded and looked at Jifu with a questioning look. She felt that the old man who had accompanied her out was about to leave her. I won't be going to Qingchen with you. I'll be at ease with Yunzhen looking after you. You have to be careful in the future. Jifu was indeed preparing to leave. Baya nodded again, then took 2 steps back and knelt down. Hey, what are you doing? Jifu quickly knelt down to help Baya up, but the latter stubbornly kowtowed to him. Thank you. Please thank everyone in the village on my behalf. After Baijan's death, she was an orphan. If it wasn't for the help of Jifu and the villagers, she would definitely have more troubles now. Alright, get up quickly. Everyone knows what you mean. Our Xiaoye is a good girl. Good luck in the future. Jifu knew that it would be a long time before they could meet again. Recalling Bai's childhood, Jifu's eyes also welled up with tears of reluctance. He knew in his heart that Baijan had originally planned to let Baya accept the inheritance after she turned 18. And before that, Baijan would arrange a lot of things for her. But now, Sugzu. Baijan's sudden death had forced this little girl to go out early and make her own way. All of them could only assist her during her growth period. They could not interfere too much with the path she chose. Because those who were not of the Spirit Lord's bloodline did not understand what kind of path would be the most suitable for her, Yingluo. Chapter 42, The National Goddess. Chapter 42, The National Goddess. After bidding farewell to Jifu, Baya quickly arrived at the gathering point of the ultimate selection field with the 10 soldiers of the Tianqian army. Where's Senior Ji? Mu Yunzhen asked curiously when he didn't see Jifu. Grandpa Ji has returned to the village. Didn't he tell you first? Baya thought that Jifu had already informed Mu Yunzhen, but the latter obviously didn't know. No, I didn't. Yesterday, he even said that he would go to Qingchen with us and only leave after you enter the final selection field. Mu Yunzhen didn't understand. When Baya heard this, his elegant eyebrows subconsciously furrowed. She knew that Jifu wasn't the kind of person who would change his mind. If he really told Mu Yunzhen that, it meant that he really did plan to do that. Could it be that something had happened in the village? At this time, the Tianqian army who was escorting Baya passed a letter to Mu Yunzhen. Mu Yunzhen laughed after reading it. It turns out that the old man didn't plan to go to Qingchen in the first place. You won't admit your loss after drinking. Baya asked for more details and found out that Jifu said he was going to Qingchen because he lost a bet with Mu Yunzhen. He had no choice but to agree, but he changed his mind at the last minute. Alright, go in quickly. The Flying Eagle Beast carriage to Green City is almost here. It'll be able to take you to Green City soon. Mu Yunzhen urged. Only then did White Knight enter the genius's gathering point, but he still felt a little worried. Quickly look. It's White Knight. Where? Where? However, the moment Baya entered the venue, he immediately caused a large group of Tong City youths to scream and cheer. She was like a national goddess, being chased by everyone's eyes. Miss Bai, for this final selection, you shall be the leader of our Tong City. At this time, a young man who was about 23 or 24 years old walked up and shyly asked Baya. Not bad, not bad. Miss Bai, please be our leader and lead us to Tong City. There were about 800 people at the scene, and everyone shouted in agreement. However, Baya himself was confused. Isn't the selection tournament based on individual achievements? We can even form a group. And in such a big group. Of course. This was because the final selection was usually to capture spiritual herbs and collect jingxi. There's strength in numbers, so we can divide the work. This shy young man seemed to have been chosen by the other young men to speak on behalf of him, and everyone echoed his words. Baya was silent. She was used to being alone and did not like to bring such a group to work, so she was prepared to reject. Miss Bai, just agree to our request. When the time comes, you'll get half of our Tong Alliance's earnings, and we'll split the rest. The shy youth said with all his capital. Half for me. White Knight was slightly surprised, but he had to admit that this was a temptation. After all, if these 800 people were all obedient, then with her ability, she could definitely bring them to get a lot of spirit herbs and jingxi. This way, while she could get a good ranking and not embarrass Yu Kong, she could also spare a lot of time and energy to find and absorb Yin spiritual energy. Right? Whoever is not willing can immediately leave the Tong Alliance. The shy young man said firmly, while the young men and women of Tong City around him nodded in agreement. At the same time, shua shua dash a gust of wind suddenly blew down from the sky. A super terrifying ominous aura swept across the sky and the earth, crushing everyone present. Chapter 43, Chapter 43, Eagle Knight Legion. Chapter 43, Eagle Knight Legion. And then, swish dash. The fierce cries of an eagle pierced into everyone's eardrums. Dash. Caught off guard, many of the young men on the field vomited blood from their internal injuries. The rest who didn't vomit blood were more or less agitated to the point that their faces turned pale. Baya, on the other hand, was fine. She looked toward the source of the sound and saw 10 enormous eagles in the sky, each half the size of a Boeing plane, slowly landing not far in front of them. It's a first-grade magical beast, an eagle beast. But it seems to be close to the level of a second-rank magical beast. It's so strong. The shy young man standing beside Baya explained excitedly. Baya looked at him in surprise when he heard this, and only then did he realize that his expression was the same as usual. His pair of clean, large eyes were even filled with the fanatical light of longing. After carefully sensing it, White Knight discovered that this guy was actually a mystical warrior. As if sensing that Baya was looking at him, the shy young man retracted his gaze and looked at Baya with some embarrassment. It's said that our Gu family used to be a family of beast tamers. Although we didn't have any beast tamer masters after that, we have a lot of information about magical beasts in the family, so. I understand. Baya nodded in understanding. At this time, Mu Yunzhen had already stepped forward to welcome a group of cavalrymen in Tianqian military armor who had just alighted from the Eagle Beast. These flying eagle beasts are from the Flying Eagle Cavalry Regiment of the Tianqian Army. They are usually used for reconnaissance and relief during sudden disasters. Apart from that, only the youths participating in the final selection of the dynasty will have the chance to ride on it. The shy young man was obviously knowledgeable. Although Baya had her original memories, she was a village girl, so she did not know much about the world outside the Prajna village. Therefore, she could be said to be a country bumpkin who knew nothing. After some conversation, Baya found out that the young man's name was Gu Changhe. He was a direct descendant of the Gu family, one of the 3 major families in Tong City. He had an extraordinary status in the Gu family and was a talent who was being trained to be the next head of the Gu family. Gu Changhe also worked hard. At the age of 24, he was already a first-grade mystical warrior. If not for the sudden emergence of White Knight, he would definitely be the leader of the Tong Alliance this time. Why did you think of electing me? Baya found it very strange, because she finally understood why everyone was willing to share half of the results with her. It was because this was the habit and advantage of leading soldiers. These were originally Gu Changhe's. He had only given his portion to Baya. After that, he would split it equally with everyone, so he wouldn't take much of the others' benefits, which was why the general public didn't have any objections. I know myself. I'm fine usually, but I panic easily when I encounter an emergency. But you also know that there will be many unexpected situations when we go to the ultimate selection field. I can't deal with them at all. Unlike you, you're very powerful. After Gu Changhe said this, he looked at Baya with eyes that were filled with stars. Gu Changhe had seen Baya's performance in the inner area of the examiners that day. On the other hand, the 15-year-old White Knight was actually able to counter-attack time and time again when he was in such a desperate situation. In the end, he had even driven the Azure Cloud Mansion's eldest young master to madness. Baya smiled and shook her head. She knew what Gu Changhe was referring to, but she had to rely on the qualification card to participate in the competition in the end to completely escape from Qingxian heaven. Who is White Knight? At this moment, a fierce-looking eagle rider with a centipede scar on the left side of his face stepped forward and asked. Chapter 44, Chapter 44, Defeated in one move. Chapter 44, Defeated in one move. All the young men were stunned. They all subconsciously looked at White Knight. The Scarface Flying Eagle Knight's gaze was as sharp as a sword as he looked at Baya. It's you. It's me. Baya nodded with a calm expression and asked, I wonder if you have a Kazaya. Swish. However, before White Knight could finish his sentence, she felt an extremely overbearing pressure coming from the eagle rider's body and crushing towards her. Luo Bao. Are you crazy? Mu Yunzhen saw this and immediately wanted to help Baya. But. Boom. The seemingly thin and weak Bayes' entire body exploded at this moment, emitting a towering and unyielding aura. Not only that, Wivua. Under everyone's disbelieving gazes, White Knight's figure even jumped up with a whoosh. Her whole body was like a light green blade light, sweeping towards Luo Bao who had attacked her. See. Luo Bao's pupils shrank. He obviously did not expect that, as far as he knew, a little girl who was only a 5th grade mystical learner would actually dare to take the initiative to attack him. Umph. Ignorant. Luo Bao laughed sarcastically and was prepared to crush the ant. He had originally not dared to kill this little girl for the sake of the 9th prince's face, but since she was looking for death, he could not be blamed. Miss Bai. Mu Yunzhen, who was so scared that he couldn't react in time, didn't even have time to stop her. In the next instant. Get lost. A thunderbolt flashed around Luo Bao's body, and a terrifying explosive force exploded like thunder. Many young men around him were so scared that they quickly flew away to avoid being implicated. Miss Bai. Gu Chang, he cried out in alarm. He was so nervous that he almost stopped breathing. This person is actually a thunder mystic warrior. It's finished. Many young men and women at the scene felt that Bai Ye had acted rashly this time. She was done for. However, after the lightning flashed. With a bang, everyone saw the extremely tall and burly Luo Bao, who was wearing the military armor, fall to the ground. This one. Everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't understand why this bastard was lying on the ground. But when everyone took a closer look, they gasped and realized that Luo Bao didn't lie down on his own, but was stepped on by Bai Ye. At this very moment, Bai Ye stepped on Luo Bao's chest with one foot, and his entire body was like a leopard, pouncing and grabbing onto Luo Bao's body. Luo Bao, he didn't dare to move. It wasn't because he was stepped on in the chest, but because he could clearly feel that there was a cold sharp weapon against his neck. What was that? Luo Bao didn't see it clearly just now. But he guessed that it should be a small weapon like a dagger. If he dared to act rashly, then the little girl who was stepping on him would definitely take his life. I'm from the Tianqian army. You can't kill me. The instinctive fear made Luo Bao emphasize his identity. Although he didn't want to admit that he was afraid, the murderous look in the eyes of the girl who was staring at him was really terrifying. Luo Bao swore that even his superior's eyes weren't that scary. Who told you to do this? Bai Ye asked in a low voice. Luo Bao's pupils shrank. No one asked me to do this. I'm Xian Tian's cousin. This is my personal idea. You should be angry. Cousin? The Luo family. Bai Ye did not listen to her any longer. She had already put away her knife and stood up. However, just as she was about to retract her blade. Boom. Luo Bao suddenly turned his hand around and slashed at the back of White Knight's neck. The ferocity of that momentum clearly had the trend of breaking White Knight's neck. Chapter 45, Chapter 45, Chapter 45, Destroy the Scumbag Knight. Chapter 45, Chapter 45, Destroy the Scumbag Knight. Shameless. Gu Chang, he roared in anger when he saw this scene. Luo Bao, you dare. Mu Yunzhen's heart, which had just calmed down, was once again in his throat. He was simply afraid that if something happened to Bai Ye, he didn't know how he would face Senior Ji, how he would explain it to Master Qin. You're looking for death. Bai Ye also didn't expect Luo Bao to be so despicable. However, her many years of professional habits made her always keep her guard up. Therefore, when Luo Bao attacked, White Knight had already keenly captured his aura. But her reaction made everyone's jaws drop. Because she didn't dodge. Instead, he turned his hand around and threw a punch, clashing with Luo Bao's palm blade. Almost at the same time. Kaka. Everyone in the audience heard the crisp sound of bones breaking or shattering from the center of the attack. Everyone shook their heads when they heard this. Is Miss Bai stupid? Since she noticed it, why didn't she dodge it? How could her fist block the attack of the eagle rider with its thick skin? I guess he can't dodge it? After all, it's too fast. It's better to break his hand than his neck. That's true. In that case, Miss Bai's response is really timely. At this moment, everyone thought that it was the bone in White Knight's hand making a crack sound. However, Luo Bao's painful screams came from the scene. The next moment, before anyone could react, several more sounds of bones breaking were heard. Pu. Luo Bao's arm bones and ribs were broken one after another. He was in so much pain that he didn't even have the time to scream. He could only vomit blood. At this time, Luo Bao only felt that he was going to die, he was going to die from the pain. Before he could recover, many of the bones in his body were shattered by Bai Ye's pear blossom in the storm. Boom! Luo Bao, who was almost out of breath after being beaten up, was finally sent flying by Bai Ye's kick like a broken puppet. His entire body was like a pool of mud as he collapsed onto the ground. This Baiyan. This lineup left everyone dumbfounded. No one would have thought that White Knight actually had such terrifying close combat ability. One must know that Luo Bao had been trained all year round, and he was a large army of Flying Eagle Knights. Normally, a soldier's body would be several times stronger than an ordinary cultivator's due to years of training. That was why everyone had previously agreed that White Knight was finished. Brother Luo. At this time, an eagle rider had quickly landed beside Luo Bao. After he checked Luo Bao's body, he stared at Bai Ye in shock. You are definitely not a 5th grade mystical learner. You're a 4th grade mystical warrior, aren't you? What? A 4th grade mystical warrior. The eagle rider's words shocked all the onlookers. Especially Mu Yunzhen, who knew Luo Bao's strength very well, he subconsciously looked at Bai Ye in agreement. Because Luo Bao's cultivation was a 2nd grade mystic warrior, in addition to the thunder mystic technique he cultivated, he had a very strong body tempering ability. Therefore, Luo Bao's physical body had to be at least a 3rd grade mystic warrior. According to this analysis, Bai Ye must be a 4th grade mystical warrior to be able to destroy Luo Bao so thoroughly and completely without any power to fight back. However, Ying Luo. A month ago, the results of Bai Ye's cultivation test showed that he was really a 5th grade mystical learner. If it wasn't for the fact that the testing crystal was from Dynasty, everyone would have suspected that there was a problem with the testing crystal. However, within a month, he had advanced from a 5th grade mystical learner to a 4th grade mystical warrior. Not only had he jumped 8 levels in a row, but he had also crossed the most difficult stage for cultivators to cross, the mystical warrior stage. This Kazaya. How was this possible? Speak. Why did you hide your cultivation and kill the soldiers? At this time, the eagle rider had already questioned Bai Ye sternly. Chapter 46, Chapter 46, Are you blind? Chapter 46, Are you blind? As soon as he finished speaking, the other eagle riders looked at Bai Ye with dark and gloomy eyes. Bai Ye laughed. Let's not talk about my cultivation base, which is not even at the mystical warrior stage. It's you eagle riders who are too weak and can't take a beating. Moreover, even if I hide my cultivation, what's wrong with that? You want to say that I'm despicable and have evil intentions. After a pause, she glanced at the eagle riders sarcastically and said, Don't forget, I was going to let this trash go. He was the one who asked for it, who can he blame? Whoosh. All the young men and women in Tong City were in an uproar. Should he directly scold the eagle rider for being weak? It was awesome. Directly calling that person trash. How domineering. Although the people present didn't have any grudges with the eagle riders, they were still unhappy that these people had deliberately released their beast pressure the moment they arrived, causing them to vomit blood and suffer internal injuries. They just didn't dare to show it. Hence, White Knight's words undoubtedly made them feel overjoyed. You, who did you say is weak? However, White Knight's words immediately angered all the eagle riders. Bai Ye spread his hands and shrugged. It's clear at a glance. Do I need to say more? Little girl, you'd better take back what you just said and apologize. Otherwise, you won't be able to withstand our anger. A man in his 30s with a calm breath and a fierce gaze slowly opened his mouth. This person was the leader of the Eagle Rider squad, Mo Shan. His cultivation was at the 4th stage mystical warrior realm. In the Flying Eagle Knight Regiment, he had Fei Ran's battle record. Did I say anything wrong? Blind people can't tell if I'm a 4th grade mystical warrior or not, but are they all blind? I still haven't condensed my profound chi. I'm just a 9th level mystical learner, but your men can't even defeat me. If you're not weak, who is? Bai Ye, however, did not show any weakness and provoked him sharply. You. Hearing Bai Ye's words, Mo Shan's dark face turned red. The rest of the eagle riders almost choked on their own breath after hearing Bai Ye's words. Especially the one who was called blind, the Flying Eagle Knight He Chengtian who was supporting Luo Bao. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. However, he knew that Bai Ye was right. When she attacked just now, there was no trace of profound chi at all. Or do you want to have a fight with me to prove that your eagle riders are awesome? However, Bai Ye was still looking at Mo Shan Deo provocatively. Mo Shan had never been provoked like this before. He wanted to teach this little girl a lesson on the spot. But. However, Bai Ye said, anyway, your subordinate has already bullied the young. It's no big deal if you bully the young again. The eagle rider can afford to lose face like this. It's fine, right? Zhen, Mo Shan replied. He had already suffered internal injuries. The Flying Eagle cavalry had already lost enough face today. If he attacked again, even if he had taught this little girl a lesson, from now on, the Flying Eagle riders would definitely be ridiculed in the army for a long time with their reputation of bullying the young and selling their young. How is it? If you don't want to fight, then hurry up and ride your eagles. We're all rushing to participate in the competition. Baiye's mouth was also unforgiving. Emosen gritted mst ton. Let's go. He had to let TMS little girl experience TNE shock of the roller coaster. Brothers and sisters, because I offended these flying eagle riders, you might be a little tired when you take the flying eagle beast carriage. Everyone, please bear with it. I'm sorry. Baiye said to the group of Tong City youths at this moment. When he heard that, Amo Shan staggered and almost fell to his death. Chapter 47, Chapter 47, Chapter 47, Acting Tough Failed, Washing Underwear. Chapter 47, Chapter 47, Acting Tough Failed, Washing Underwear. Miss Bai, this is not your fault. You don't have to apologize. Gu Changhe immediately answered honestly. That's right, we're not afraid of Yingluo. Many of the more unyielding young men also echoed. Mu Yunzhen saw that the time was almost right. If they continued to waste more time, the Eagle Riders would really go all out. Baiye and the rest would be the ones at a disadvantage, so he acted as the peacemaker and laughed, hurry up and get on the beast carriage. If you're late, you won't be able to enter the selection field. Everyone hurriedly went to get on the carriage, but the Eagle Riders' faces were as ugly as could be. Today's incident made them, who had always had a good status in the army and among the people, feel extremely aggrieved. Mother asterisker. It's all that idiot Luo Bao's fault. He's a second-grade mystical warrior, but he couldn't even defeat a little mystical learner. He's simply disgraced our team, asterisk plus. That's right, Captain. I suggest punishing Luo Bao to wash our underwear for a month. Yes, yes. Mother asterisker, this is too numbing. Since they could not do anything to the little girl, Baiye, many of the Eagle Riders directed their anger at Luo Bao, who had failed to act cool and was beaten into a pig-like head with broken bones. I agree, Amo Shen replied with a dark expression. After swallowing the healing pill, Luo Bao, who had just woken up, vomited blood and fainted again when he heard this. Luo Bao had never thought that he would only want to stand up for Qing Xiantian and suppress this stupid brat who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He never thought that he would fail to suppress her, and instead, he would be seriously injured. Forget it, I'll wash my pants for a month. Before Luo Bao fainted, he could smell the sour and refreshing smell. After seeing that the Eagle Riders had no other plans to counterattack for the time being, White Knight walked towards the beast carriage feeling refreshed. Miss Bai, Gu Changhe had been waiting for Baiye all this while. When he saw that she was finally getting ready to get into the car, he hurriedly followed after her and called out to her. Baiye glanced sideways and saw this shy little brother looking at him with eyes that were full of stars. This was obviously the attitude of a boy who chased after stars. You can just call me White Knight. Baiye patted the young man's shoulder and smiled, thinking that this child was really innocent. Baiye was only 27 years old when he died in her previous life. However, Gu Changhe, who had grown up without any emotions, was really just an innocent child in her eyes. How can I accept that? Since you're so powerful, why don't I call you Boss Bai? Gu Changhe immediately retorted. He instinctively felt that Baiye should be respected for being so strong and should be called boss. Don't, you're shouting like a hooligan. Baiye smiled and shook his head. As expected, Gu Changhe was at a loss when he heard this. After a long while, he stammered, that's true. I'll just call you White Knight then. This is for you. Baiye had just sat down when Gu Changhe stuffed a small porcelain bottle into her hand. She was about to return it. This is a healing pill given to me by my grandfather. It's said to be a level 1 pill that's very effective in healing injuries. I can see that your arm is bruised and swollen. You must be injured. Hurry up and swallow it to heal your injuries. Gu Changhe explained. Baiye was slightly stunned, his gaze falling on a large blue mark on his arm. That's right, she was injured, and it wasn't a light injury. Her bones were dislocated and cracked. So, in fact, the cracking sound at the beginning also included the sound of her bones cracking. Chapter 48, Chapter 48, Chapter 48 A Conspiracy. Chapter 48, Chapter 48 A Conspiracy. Luo Bao's physique as a third-grade mystic warrior was not to be trifled with. If she hadn't withdrawn her hand quickly, her hand bones would have been broken along with Luo Bao's. She could beat Luo Bao up in the later stage because of her fast speed. In addition, her medical skills allowed her to clearly know where the attack was aimed at, which was the weakest part of the human body. Otherwise, if they were to fight head-on, White Knight might not have a chance of winning. White Knight, what's wrong? Seeing that she was in a daze, Gu Changhe asked anxiously, are your injuries too serious? Only then did Baiye come back to his senses and shake his head. I'm fine. It's just a little bone fracture and dislocation. I don't need a level 1 pill to heal my injuries. You can take it back. Baiye had always been the one to take on all the injuries and heal himself. This was the first time someone had asked about his injuries, and he had even been given medicine. This made her feel a little strange. No. I think those eagle riders are still not happy with you. The journey to Qingcheng will take at least 7 to 8 days. What if they try to make things difficult for you while you're still injured? I saw it. That Luo Bao guy has already swallowed a few level 1 elixir pills. He will definitely recover soon. Gu Changhe said seriously. And what he saw, Bai Ye naturally saw as well. However, she really did not need the medicinal pill. However, seeing Gu Changhe's stubborn expression, Bai Ye could not say anything. He could only reach out his left hand and hold it in his right hand. Following that, a crack was heard, and the dislocated bone spine was reconnected by Bai Ye. Then, she took out a white cloth and a small wooden board from her bag and tied her arms firmly. After doing all this, Bai Ye showed his arm to Gu Changhe. I'll be fine in less than 3 days. Gu Changhe's eyes widened. He only reacted after a long while. Aren't you afraid of pain? As a cultivator, it was common for him to get injured. This was because Gu Changhe clearly knew that the pain of moving his bones and breaking his bones was no different. But even a man like him didn't have the courage to fix his own bones. Let's not talk about whether or not I can fix it, just the pain of breaking my bones again is enough to make me unable to do it. It doesn't hurt that much. Bai Ye said as he leaned lazily against his chair, looking relaxed, as if he really did not feel any pain. How could it not hurt? Even a man like Luo Bao would scream when his bones were broken. But the White Knight Mayfly. Gu Changhe held the porcelain bottle in his hand in a daze. He suddenly recalled Bai Ye's experiences and could not help but quietly wipe his tears. Thinking about it again, he also had a 15-year-old sister at home. When she was only injured during cultivation, she could still cry and look for her mother to act coquettishly. But what about Bai Ye? You'd better keep it, you'll get hurt in the future. Gu Changhe stubbornly stuffed the pill back into Bai Ye's palm. He then rummaged through his bag and took out many medicine jars for Bai Ye. My mother prepared a lot for me. I don't need so much. 1 portion is for you. As Gu Changhe spoke, he also introduced the uses of the medicinal powder and potions to Bai Ye. Bai Ye actually did not need to listen. She only needed to smell it to know the effects of these medicines. However, she didn't interrupt Gu Changhe's nagging. His mind was empty and his mind was wandering elsewhere. Then, she noticed some special information. Secretly put pressure on the children of the Tong City aristocratic families, and let them recuperate when the time comes. Chapter 49, Chapter 49, A top student is a top student. Chapter 49, A top student is a top student. After listening for a while, Bai Ye could tell that this was the voice of Luo Bao's friend. However, the more he spoke, the softer he became. He couldn't tell what he was saying at the end. As expected, you're not convinced. Bai Ye had long expected that they would take revenge, so she was not surprised to hear this. Even if she could not hear their specific plan, she was not too worried. In any case, she would deal with whatever came her way. White Knight, did you hear me or not? At this moment, Gu Changhe felt that Bai Ye was really a little girl. He was as disobedient as his sister. Of course, this is a Kaseya. Bai Ye picked up 2 porcelain bottles and explained their effects at once, which shocked Gu Changhe so much that he was speechless. Alright, this was the legendary top student. It looked like she didn't listen to the class, but in fact, if she understood everything, she could get full marks in the assessment. In the end, Bai Ye accepted the rest of the elixirs, but he still returned the level 1 elixirs to Gu Changhe. I'm stronger than you, so the chances of me getting seriously injured are definitely smaller than you. What do you think? Gu Changhe was speechless. After that, White Knight used the excuse of recuperating to finally shut Gu Changhe's mouth. Once her ears were clear, Bai Ye quickly calmed down and began to heal her injuries. She also re-evaluated her own combat strength. It seems that the Bai clan's Heart Sutra not only helps to speed up the improvement of cultivation, but it also seems to have a very strong body tempering effect. Because of Furbal's silence, Bai Ye's cultivation was all by himself. She did not know that every time she finished cultivating, the sour smell on her body was because of the Bai clan Heart Sutra that was cleansing her marrow and helping her to expel the impurities in her body. Therefore, even though White Knight looked thin and weak, her physical body was definitely not to be underestimated. However, before she fought with Luo Bao, she didn't know this, so she was really prepared to exchange her broken arm for a broken neck. Is it because I excrete those dirty things that my body became stronger? Although Bai Ye did not know about internal cleansing, she was smart after all, so she managed to deduce the root of the problem. But I haven't been able to break through to the mystical warrior stage recently, and the amount of dirty things I excrete has obviously decreased. Bai Ye sighed inwardly. She was more and more eager to break through to the mystical warrior stage, and she also looked forward to the opportunities that the ultimate selection field could bring her. 6 days passed by in such a calm manner. On the 7th night, When everyone was asleep, a scent that was completely undetectable by ordinary people slowly spread into the dormitory of the Flying Eagle Beast carriage where Baya was. See. Baya's clear eyes suddenly opened in the darkness. She could instantly tell that the air was filled with the smell of devil's incense. Demonic layer incense was a colorless and odorless incense that was specially developed for cultivators. It had a quick effect and no cleaning effect after it disappeared. It was the most advanced incense in the cultivation world and was not cheap. Have they made their move? Baya muttered to herself as she used her sharper senses to look around. Her pupils then constricted when she realized that Gu Changhe had been quietly taken away. The next moment. Whoosh! Baya leaped out of the beast carriage dormitory like a carp and followed the other party's trail to the spot near the eagle beast's neck. But there was no one here? Only the wind outside the screen formation was making a woo-woo sound. You're still not coming out, hiding your head and showing your tail. Baya's cold eyes swept over and looked at a bunch of eagle feathers. Chapter 50, Chapter 50, Chapter 50 Poisoned. Chapter 50, Chapter 50 Poisoned. Your senses are not bad. You're not poisoned, and you're fast enough. You didn't even wait for us to make a move before you found me. No wonder you were able to injure me so badly. With a rough voice, Luo Bao's burly body and He Jingtian's figure, who was carrying the unconscious Gu Changhe on his back, appeared from under the two huge eagle feathers. At this time, Luo Bao's expression had already returned to normal. It looked like his injuries were basically healed, but the dark color in his eyes was very thick, and even revealed a killing intent. Previously, I was careless and was humiliated by you. Today, he. Luo Bao sneered and said sternly, Baya, right? For the sake of cousin Xiantian, I can spare your life, but you must immediately kneel down and admit your mistake, and cut off your own meridians. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. Luo Bao's eyes turned vertical, and he had a fierce look as if he wanted to eat Baya. Oh? Are you trying to use Gu Changhe to threaten me? So what if I am? It's nothing. You guys have fun. I'm going back to sleep. Baya turned to leave as he spoke, as if he did not care about Gu Changhe at all. Stop right there. Luo Bao shouted angrily. Baya, who had already turned around, moved at this moment. Like a gust of wind, she swept in front of He Chengtian in an instant. Her hand was like an eagle's claw, and she slashed at He Chengtian's throat. He Chengtian's pupils constricted, and he instinctively used Gu Changhe to block, but he fell right into Baya's trap. She immediately retracted her strength and snatched Gu Changhe away. You wretched girl, you're looking for death. Luo Bao didn't expect Baya to be so fierce. He actually dared to take the initiative to attack when facing him and He Chengtian, plus the situation of having a hostage. However, Luo Bao, who had suffered once, wasn't slow at all this time. He instantly pulled out a mountain knife and slashed at White Knight. Up to this point, Luo Bao actually didn't plan on letting Baya off. He, who had been washing his smelly underwear these few days, wanted to tear Baya into pieces. It had to be said that Luo Bao's strength was indeed not ordinary when he was ruthless, especially when his blade was even augmented with mystic chi. If White Knight was struck, he would die without a doubt. But who was White Knight? Since she dared to attack, she must have already planned her retreat. Swish. Therefore, when Luo Bao's blade slashed down, she was already like an eagle, flying to the side with Gu Changhe to avoid it. Not only that, but she also shot out two cold glints with her backhand. It went straight for Luo Bao and He Jingtian's eyebrows, its killing aura extremely fierce. Seeing this, Luo Bao's mountain-splitting blade shook. Boom. He Jingtian's profound chi blasted out. Bang, 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 bang. In a single exchange, White Knight's attack was completely disintegrated. However, she had also successfully saved Gu Changhe. Bitch, go to hell. A venomous female voice came from behind Baya. It carried this sharp and deadly aura as it went straight for Baya's back. Swish. White Knight did not have time to dodge, and she only had time to block with her backhand. Relying on her keen perception, she grasped a hidden weapon in her hand. The sharp hidden weapon pierced into her skin, causing her to feel numb. It's poisonous. Baya's brows twitched, and he quickly circulated the Bai Clan Heart Sutra to seal the meridians in his left hand. He then quickly dodged to the side. In the night light, Baya saw an unfamiliar woman's face, but the woman's eyes were somewhat familiar. Yunming Meng. Baya quickly identified this woman's true identity. Chapter 51, Chapter 51, Chapter 51, Plot Against You, 1. Chapter 51, Chapter 51, Plot Against You, 1. You have good eyes. Yunmeng Meng, who had sneaked an attack on Baya with a hidden weapon, reached out and tore off the human skin mask on her face, revealing her domineering and proud face. Ye took a light breath and sharply sensed that Yun Mingmeng's cultivation seemed to have increased a lot. However, his aura was a little erratic. He must have taken some legendary secret medicine to improve his cultivation base. *TCH, you've been poisoned by the bone-eroding powder. Do you feel like your bones are in so much pain that you want to die? He, Qian, you'll die soon. At that time, I'll fall from this high altitude with you, my adulterer, and die without a trace. Yun Mengmeng said with a vicious smile. Tisk, 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 so you're still afraid of being investigated by the Ninth Prince, but do you really think you can hide from the Ninth Prince by destroying the corpse and erasing the evidence? Ye chuckled and asked in return. The pain caused by the poison in her left arm did not make her panic. Upon hearing this, Luo Bao, He Chengtian, and Yun Mingmeng's breathing tightened, and their expressions changed. You don't have to worry about this, you'll die first. Yun Mengmeng didn't believe that the so-called Ninth Wanjai would be able to find any evidence when the corpse was gone. Moreover, she was very clear that Luo Bao and He Chengtian had already made perfect arrangements to ensure that this matter would be covered up perfectly. So, it's fine if you don't want to die. Hand over the body movement profound skill that you're cultivating. He Chengtian's thoughts were obviously more serious. He had carefully deliberated over the process of Ye's victory over Luo Bao these few days. Then, he discovered that White Knight's attacks were actually all based on his fast hands to seize the initiative. Especially when she attacked just now, He Chengtian had personally experienced it himself. It was really fast. So fast. Therefore, He Chengtian boldly guessed that Ye might have a very extraordinary mystic skill that could be cultivated with movement techniques. Sure. Ye's response instantly made He Chengtian, who was trying to test the waters, subconsciously hold his breath. There really was. Did she really have it? Fortunately, he had asked. Otherwise, he would have disappeared with her. But you have to bring the antidote here, because I will only give it to you. Don't even think about the other two. Ye made a request. *CK. Luo Bao was about to speak. As you wish, He Chengtian replied readily. As soon as he finished speaking, He Chengtian consoled Luo Bao in a low voice, this girl is already poisoned. It's just a dying struggle. Regardless of whether she has a mystic skill or not, I will grant her death. The plan will not change. When Luo Bao heard this, he didn't speak again. The antidote. He Chengtian reached out to Yun Mengmeng for the antidote. Yun Mengmeng was obviously unwilling to give it to him. Big brother she's playing a trick. Why don't you cut the crap and give me the antidote? I don't need you to tell me what to do. He Chengtian said rudely. Yun Mengmeng was not part of their plan to begin with, and she was the one who came to their door. Because someone needed to take the blame for the funeral, He Chengtian suggested that Luo Bao should use Yun Mengmeng. Hearing this, Yun Mengmeng bit her lip. In the end, under He Chengtian's intense gaze, she handed him the antidote. However, she thought to herself that if they really wanted to let Ye go after He Chengtian was done, she would definitely kill this *TCH. Hand over the mystic skill manual and I'll give you the antidote. He Chengtian took the antidote and approached Ye as he spoke. At the same time, he was still secretly condensing his profound qi. He clearly had other plans. It had to be said that He Chengtian was a very cautious person. He did not let his guard down even though Ye was poisoned. Compared to Luo Bao, he had obviously improved after suffering a loss. However, he had encountered White Knight, an existence that had even toyed with the world government. Chapter 52, Chapter 52, Chapter 52 Plot to Kill You, 2. Chapter 52, Chapter 52 Plot to Kill You, 2. I have to try first to see if the antidote is effective. Otherwise, if you take the Xian skill and attack me before I swallow the antidote, what should I do? Ye asked doubtfully. Then you take out the secret manual first, I'll watch from the side. He Chengtian wasn't stupid. Ye nodded without any objection and put Gu Changhe down. At the same time, he reached into his pocket and looked like he was taking something seriously. He Chengtian stared at Ye with his pupils slightly congealed. All the mystic qi in his body had already secretly gathered on the fist of his right hand, and then dash. Without waiting for White Knight to make his next move, he directly threw a punch. Boom. He Chengtian did not believe that Ye would hand over the Xian skill so easily. Therefore, he had no intention of giving Ye the antidote. He wanted to get close to Ye and kill her before searching her body. This was to prevent her from using her Xian skill and jumping off the eagle beast carriage. He Chengtian's punch was about to hit Ye's head, but... Swish. Ye's hand had already reached into his arms, and it was already a step ahead of He Chengtian's fist. Humph, you're overestimating yourself. He Chengtian scoffed when he saw that Ye actually dared to fight her head-on with his bare fists after he had gathered his strength and launched a full-force attack. Bang. The two fists exploded together, but it gave off the explosive sound of a hard object colliding. However, after the exchange, White Knight clearly took a few steps back. But what about He Chengtian? He. F***CKU. He Chengtian felt a numbing pain in his fist, and then he realized that there was a huge cut on his fist. At this moment, Bai Ye, who had been forced back by He Chengtian's celestial chi, punched He Chengtian's face with lightning speed. What was even more terrifying was that there was a sharp weapon on the head of her group that was obviously stained with blood. It flashed out from the gap between her index and middle fingers. And just now, He Chengtian's hand had been injured by the White Knight fist, this hidden weapon. CC. He Chengtian, who had fully realized that not only was Bai Ye fast, but his attacks were also very strong, was so frightened that he immediately dodged backward. At the same time, he used his uninjured hand to grab Bai Ye's wrist. "Brother Luo, quickly help." While responding, He Chengtian didn't forget to call for help. He felt that his injured hand was very numb and painful. He must have been poisoned. He had been tricked. The poisoned He Chengtian was not in the mood to fight. He only wanted to get out of the situation as soon as possible, but how could Bai Ye let him go? So, just as He Chengtian dodged, her left hand, which had not moved at all, suddenly turned around and a small black knife flew out. The small knife stabbed out at a strange speed in the night sky. Swish. The saber had pierced He Cheng's heart meridian. Then, Bai Ye once again displayed his godlike speed. As he leaped up, he knocked He Chengtian to the ground, and his other hand was already holding the scalpel that was inserted into He Chengtian's heart meridian. Fresh blood gushed out of He Chengtian's heart like a fountain. This scene stunned Luo Bao, who had rushed up to help. He knew that White Knight was fast, but wasn't she poisoned? Moreover, Luo Bao knew very clearly that He Chengtian didn't underestimate his enemy at all. Although his cultivation was one level lower than Luo Bao's and he was a first-grade mystic warrior, he was still a mystic warrior. Even if they were to fight head-on, this wretched girl who was only a mystical learner actually had the ability to be defeated and even kill a mystical warrior. Chapter 53, Chapter 53, Chapter 53 The Most Powerful Heart Sutra, Immune to All Poison. Chapter 53, Chapter 53 The Most Powerful Heart Sutra, Immune to All Poison. How could it be possible? Luo Bao had always thought that he would be so miserable before. It was only because he had underestimated his enemy at the beginning that he had fallen into such a situation. After all, he didn't use his full strength when he sneaked an attack. It was just a hot-headed act in his anger, but He Chengtian wasn't like that. He Chengtian had used all his xianqi. And even more shocked than Luo Bao was the person involved, He Chengtian. He couldn't figure out why Bai Ye was still so fierce even though he was clearly poisoned. Especially her left hand, because it had blocked Yunming Meng's hidden weapon, shouldn't it be even more unable to move? Could it be that Ying Luo wasn't poisoned at all? No, that's impossible. Yunming Meng's hidden weapon clearly pierced through her palm and she's bleeding. The blood is still black, so how could she not be poisoned? He Chengtian believed in his own eyes, and even more so, he believed that Yunming Meng's poison was definitely not fake. Furthermore, he looked at Bai Ye's hand. There was indeed a wound, but the wound was no longer bleeding. There were no signs of poisoning either. You can detoxify yourself. He Chengtian said weakly and in disbelief. Bai Ye did not answer, but she was actually quite surprised herself. This was because she had just discovered that the Bai Clan Heart Sutra could remove the poison in her body by itself. No wonder Qing Xiantian forced her so much and wanted to capture her back so badly. As expected, the ability of the Bai Clan Heart Sutra was really amazing. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I'll let bygones be bygones. He Chengtian couldn't help but beg for mercy as blood kept gushing out of his heart meridian, as well as White Knight's strange situation. Although he didn't know why he didn't die immediately, it was his heart that was pierced. However, He Chengtian knew that his life and death were completely in Bai Ye's hands. Yes. Luo Bao, who had just recovered from the shock, also responded in a hurry. He was frightened by He Chengtian's blood. Write it off. Bai Ye raised his eyebrows and laughed, but his gaze swept towards Yun Mengmeng, who still had a dumbfounded expression. Kill her and I'll let him go. Bai Ye had always been a vengeful person, and this was the third time Yun Mengmeng had provoked her. This time, if she did not have the Bai Clan's Heart Sutra with her, she would definitely not be able to defeat He Chengtian, and she would be dead now. Yun Mengmeng's pupils shrank when she heard this. Without thinking, she immediately turned around and fled. At the same time, he shouted for help, help, help. Luo Bao's hands were quick. A machete had already been thrust out horizontally, stabbing Yun Mengmeng's back. A large amount of blood gushed out from her chest. Seeing this, Bai Ye could not help but sigh in admiration. This Luo Bao was indeed blood related to Qing Xian heaven. He was really the same nimble in doing things. Don't be scared. Yun Mengmeng had never thought that she would end up like this. She was clearly here to kill that little B*TCH Bayet. Moreover, after taking the Mystic Rising pill, she should have gotten a good ranking in the final selection. Perhaps she could even mix into the circle of the capital's aristocrats. Unfortunately, it was all gone. Yun Mengmeng was destined to die without an intact corpse. She had been thrown off the eagle beast carriage by Luo Bao. All right, you can quickly release her. After Luo Bao dealt with Yun Mengmeng, he stared at Bai Ye, afraid that He Chengtian couldn't hold on. Hand over the things you took from Yun Mengmeng, as well as everything else you have. White Knight requested. Don't push your luck. Luo Bao's face turned black. Insatiable? You wanted to kill me, but I didn't kill you. I'm kind enough. Cut the crap and hand it over, or I'll kill him. As White Knight spoke, he exerted force in his hand. Chi, a stream of blood gushed out from He Chengtian's chest like a fountain. Umph. He Chengtian lost too much blood and fainted from the pain. I'll pay. I'll hand Luo Bao completely admitted defeat. Chapter 54, Kneeling Down and Singing Surrender. Chapter 54, Kneeling Down and Singing Surrender. After that, Luo Bao gave Bai Ye an exquisite sleeve dart, which he had obtained from Yun Mengmeng, as well as some of his own things. Take off your clothes, I'll check. However, Bai Ye, this Zhou Slayers, was still unwilling to give up. Luo Bao simply wanted to vomit blood. He and He Chengtian had originally planned to use Gu Changhe to torment Bai Ye, but it was the opposite now. He Chengtian was held hostage, and he was so angry that he did whatever Bai Ye said. This was simply a real-life version of trying to steal a chicken but losing the rice instead. In the end, Luo Bao was robbed clean. Otherwise, what could he do? He didn't have the habit of putting the good things he always carried in his pants in advance. Otherwise, he would have kept some of them. Can you let him go now? Luo Bao put on his clothes again. He just couldn't understand. This was clearly a 15-year-old girl, but how could she do things in such a way? She was especially good at robbing. He was just short of plucking all the hair on his body for her. Mother of asterisker. In the future, he had to keep some good things in his pants to avoid being robbed again. As Luo Bao thought this, he saw Bai Ye also rob He Chengtian. Well, now the two brothers had nothing. However, Luo Bao, who thought that it was over, realized that he was wrong. Still not enough. Bai Ye replied coolly. You. Luo Bao was about to spit fire. At this time, Bai Ye woke up He Chengtian, who was on the verge of death, and said calmly, swear a blood oath that the two of you will be loyal to me from today on. Otherwise, your martial arts will be destroyed and your entire family will be struck by lightning. Don't even think about it. Luo Bao didn't even think and said angrily, let him be a slave. In his dreams, he, Luo Bao, was still a young master at home. His family background was good, and his talent wasn't bad either. He would definitely be able to become a general in a few years. Was that why he had to submit and become a slave? Delusional. Even He Chengtian gritted his teeth and said, just kill me. I will never be a slave. Really? Bai Ye laughed when he heard this, and his smile was especially bright, making He Chengtian's hair stand on end. Then, the sound of He Chengtian let out a shrill cry. He felt as if his heart was being cut open bit by hundreds of knives. It was so painful that he wanted to die. He wanted to die. He wanted to die. Wretched girl, stop. Come at me if you dare, I'm the one who's looking for trouble. Luo Bao had never heard He Chengtian scream so miserably before. Seeing that the latter's face had already turned as white as a cloud, looking like he was about to die, he couldn't help but shout. Ow, but Bai Ye turned a deaf ear and only continued to torture He Chengtian. Her hand gestures were very good. In fact, she didn't really stab He Chengtian's heart. Instead, she used a tricky method to find the place that would make people making people feel that she was stabbing his heart. According to her experience in her previous life, the average person's heart could be tortured by her for 10 minutes, but the toughest gang leader she had ever met could only hold on for 5 minutes. Bai Ye was confident that He Chengtian would not be able to withstand it. Oh, after a few minutes, He Chengtian couldn't take it anymore and wanted to open his mouth to agree. But I promise you. I, Luo Bao, swear on the blood oath that as long as you let He Chengtian go, I, Luo Bao, am willing to pledge my loyalty to you. If I break this oath, my martial arts will be destroyed, and my 9 generations will be struck by lightning. Luo Bao roared in pain. He Chengtian, Wan he was a little dumbfounded. He didn't expect Luo Bao to agree so readily in order to save him. After all, Qian had submitted to him and become a slave. That's enough. Luo Bao glared at Bai Ye with his eyes wide open. He could imagine that this choice was really difficult and humiliating for him. No, you're not sincere. You have to kneel down and make an oath. White Knight said faintly. Chapter 55, Chapter 55, Chapter 55 Initial Appearance of Extraordinary Power. Chapter 55, Chapter 55 Initial Appearance of Extraordinary Power. Don't go too far. He Chengtian roared, ignoring his weakness. He couldn't bear to see his brother being trampled on again and again. However, Ao-Baya made another hand gesture, and He Chengtian could only scream in pain, unable to say anything. He had finally experienced what it meant to be in so much pain that one would rather die. Unfortunately, he wouldn't die. Ying Luo. As you wish. Luo Bao knelt down. The burly him knelt in front of Baya and repeated his oath, I am Luo Bao Qian. And this time, Luo Bao's eyes also shed tears of humiliation. Even though he had been bullied by the veterans when he first joined the Eagle Knights, this was the first time he had been humiliated like this. The name Baya would become his nightmare from now on. She had completely trampled on his dignity. It's your turn. After Baya finished insulting Luo Bao, he looked at He Chengtian with a faint smile. He, who was already living a life worse than death, only wanted to be free. Naturally, he would do whatever Baya wanted him to do. That's enough. Only then did Baya pull out his dagger. As he wiped the blood off He Chengtian's body, he stood up and said, Don't give me that half-dead look. If I wasn't afraid of the trouble of killing you, you wouldn't even have the chance to make an oath. Clean up the scene properly, I don't want any trouble to come to our door. After saying that, White Knight, who had a great harvest, carried Gu Changhe and left. After she left, the dazed Luo Bao hurriedly went to check on He Chengtian's condition. Then, he realized that Baya had left them some life-saving medicinal powder. They didn't know if it was because they were abused miserably, but at this moment, Luo Bao and He Chengtian actually had a kind of feeling of gratitude overflowing. But this powder was clearly robbed by White Knight. What a cunning little girl. At this moment, in the sky above the flying eagle beast carriage, an old man with white beard and black hair muttered to himself as he stared at Baya's disappearing back with burning eyes. Quick reaction in the face of battle, fearlessness in the face of danger, killing with a borrowed knife, and taking prisoners with a hostage. He's completely solved his own problems and left himself a perfect escape route. The old man thought back to the scene just now, and the image finally stopped at White Knight's sweet smile. No wonder he's valued by the ninth prince. Just his smiling face alone is exactly the same evil. After the old man finished speaking, he shivered as if he had thought of something and then disappeared. No one knew that in every genius selection, from the moment they made it to the final selection, there would be mysterious experts from the dynasty who would secretly watch the participants. However, they would not interfere with anything. They were just observers and observers. Other than the top figures of the royal family, no one knew about this. As for the truth behind Yun Mingmeng's death, other than the 4 people here, no one else would know. The next morning, the 10 eagle beast-drawn carriages had already flown into the vicinity of Qingcheng. They had arrived at their destination. At this time, there were already 4,000 to 5,000 people gathered at the Qingcheng gathering point. They were the elite young men of the Qingyun state from the 4 genius selection points outside of Tong City, including Qingcheng. Baya stretched lazily, getting ready to welcome a new starting point in the morning light. White Knight, I heard that we're missing one person. Do you know who it is? Gu Changhe, who felt a little sore after getting up, asked Baya as he handed him breakfast. Oh. Baya munched on the hot meat patties and shook his head as he mumbled, I don't know, who is it? We've arrived at Qingcheng. We're about to land. Those who haven't had breakfast, hurry up. At this moment, Mu Yunzhen's voice rang out loudly. Chapter 56, Chapter 56, Chapter 56, The benefits are great. Chapter 56, Chapter 56, The benefits are great. Hiss, the eagle beast let out high-pitched eagle cry and began to descend slowly. It was obviously much gentler than when it was in Tong City, so the flying eagle riders were indeed bullying the young people of Tong City. While the flying eagle beast carriage was falling, Baya finished 3 to 4 pieces of meat patties. Gu Changhe was stunned by his huge appetite. Baya, are you very hungry? Woo 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 woo. Baya was indeed very hungry. Not only had she fought a great battle last night, but she had also gone back to sort out her cultivation, so she was naturally very hungry. However, Baya was very excited, because she had digested the 5 level 1 spiritual herbs she had robbed from Luo Bao and He Chengtian last night, mysterious god grass. Then, she found that her cultivation level had increased a little. Although it had not reached the level of breaking through the mystical warrior stage, she could clearly feel that it would be soon. Perhaps I can break through to the mystical warrior realm after refining 10 more divine mystical herbs. White Knight evaluated in his heart, looking forward to the final selection even more. At this time, the excitement of arriving in Qing City made the young people of Tong City forget about the disappearance of a contestant. And because of the magical effects of the Devil's Ivy, no one realized that they had been unconscious for the entire night. Only Mu Yunzhen, the leader, had to be investigated. But with Luo Bao taking care of the aftermath, everything naturally wouldn't have anything to do with Bai Ye. Swish. As the 10 eagle beasts landed on the ground, the cheers of the young people in Tong City rose to an unprecedented high. However, when she got off the beast carriage, Bai Ye vaguely saw that among the 40,000 to 50,000 people below, the figure of the person leading seemed a little familiar to her. When the beast-drawn carriage approached, Bai Ye's pair of beautiful eyes subconsciously narrowed. It was because she had clearly seen who that person was. He was Qing Xiantian. Chang He, I remember that those who have participated in the genius selection before can't participate again, right? Bai Ye could not help but ask Gu Chang He. Yeah, Gu Chang He nodded and replied. What's going on with Qing Xian Heaven? Why is he still here? Bai Ye frowned unhappily. She hated being pestered the most. If this Qing Xian Heaven really wanted to follow her and pester her into the ultimate selection field, she would not mind killing him there. In any case, no one could say for sure what would happen in the selection field. Furthermore, it was impossible for Qing Xiantian to bring along his private army and enter the selection field together. Oh, he should be here to welcome the selected young men on behalf of the governor. Don't worry, he won't dare to do anything to you in front of so many people. Furthermore, you are a participant and someone protected by the dynasty. He wouldn't dare to do anything to you. Gu Changhe thought that Bai Ye was afraid of Qing Xian Heaven, so he immediately gave her a detailed explanation and especially comforted her. He was just like a big brother. I see. When Bai Ye heard this, he felt a little regretful. She had thought that she would have the chance to kill Qing Xian Heaven completely. But it's a little strange. He caused such a big ruckus in Tong City, but he wasn't punished? Why did you come out and show off? Gu Changhe asked in confusion. He has a strong backing. She believed that the Qing clan definitely had a very strong backing in the imperial city. Otherwise, Qing Xiantian would not be so arrogant in their actions to even dare to disrupt the genius assessment in Tong City. Moreover, Mu Yunzhen, a disciple of the Mu clan, had a clear impression of him when he first saw Qing Xian Heaven. In summary, Bai Ye knew that although Qing Xiantian was the son of a local official of the Qingyun state, he and the Qing family were also very popular in the imperial city. Chapter 57, Scumbag Father and Son, a Bunch of Scums. Chapter 57, Scumbag Father and Son, a Bunch of Scums. After Mu Yunzhen and his colleagues finished greeting each other, Bai Ye and the rest also joined up with the rest of the troops. Stay away from them, quickly dodge. Don't get too close to the people of Tong City. Regardless of whether it was the participants from Qingcheng district or the other 3 districts, they all avoided Bai Ye and the other Tong City youths like the plague. This Kazaya. Alright, since we're all here, let's hurry up and set off. The participants from the other 8 states have already entered the arena, and you are the last to enter. By the time you're inside, they'll have already finished their work. At this moment, the governor of the Cyan Cloud state, Qinghea, appeared out of nowhere and gave the order. Although he sounded like he was talking about all the Qingyun state contestants, he was actually drawing hatred to the Tong City youths. So as soon as he finished speaking, it's all the fault of those useless people from Tong City. They were clearly already a burden, but they didn't know to come earlier. We were all late. That's right, that's right. Our Cyan Cloud state is not as good as the Divine Emperor state. The Northern Wolf state and the Heavenly Eagle state will fall behind even more now. It'd be a joke if the overall results were the last. Many young people from the other 4 precincts complained and scorned the young people from Tong City. Most of the young men in Tong City were young and inexperienced. They were so disdained that they could not even lift their heads. Some of them had already subconsciously apologized, but they did not receive any kind of expression. What's going on? There's a state ranking? Bai Ye did not understand. Why did she feel that this selection contest was much more complicated than she had imagined? Yes. That's why the provincial governor and other officials pay great attention to the genius selection. It's said that the imperial court will reduce the supply of cultivation resources for the next 5 years for the one who ranks last. Gu Changhe was indeed knowledgeable. The imperial court will distribute cultivation resources? How come I didn't know about this? White Knight had never heard of it before. Furthermore, none of them, the citizens, had ever heard of anyone receiving any benefits before. 30% will be given to individuals or families who perform outstandingly in the selection. The remaining 70% will go to the local armies and officials of each province. I see. No wonder these people are so excited. Only then did Bai Ye understand. But Ji Fu had never told her about this. If she performed well, she could earn some cultivation resources for the village. And, we don't need to care about them. In any case, from what I know, after entering the selection point, Each of them will form their own small teams and move about. They will only meet up when the time is right. Gu Changhe provided all the information he knew to Bai Ye, his leader who knew nothing. Run. Hurry up. At this time, the teleportation array leading to the ultimate selection field had already been opened in a brilliant light. The youths of the Qingyun state all quickly stepped into the teleportation array. Miss Bai, I'll send you off here. Good luck. Mu Yunzhen also came over to bid farewell to Bai Ye. He was about to return to the imperial city to regain his vision. After all, there was a murder case, and as the leader, he had to go back. All right, thank you Big Brother Mu for taking care of me along the way. Bai Ye thanked him. She felt a little apologetic for causing trouble for Mu Yunzhen, but she believed that Luo Bao and He Chengtian would take care of it perfectly. It was just that she had not seen these two people so far today. They were probably so ashamed that they had no face to see anyone. Ha ha ha, Ying Luo doesn't deserve the title. I didn't do anything. I'll be waiting for you in the imperial city. Mu Yunzhen laughed. He actually had a good impression of this little girl. All he had seen during this period of time was her strength, independence, and calmness. However, these qualities should not have appeared in her so early, but... Yes. Bai Ye nodded, but a devilish figure flashed through his mind. She didn't know if this guy was really waiting for her in the imperial city this time. He wouldn't come out again, would he? Chapter 58, Chapter 58, A Beautiful White Lotus. Chapter 58, A Beautiful White Lotus. Go on. Mu Yunzhen saw that most of the people had left, and he was afraid that Bai Ye and the others would be scolded again, so he quickly waved his hand to urge them. Only then did Bai Ye, Gu Changhe, and the others quickly walk towards the teleportation array. As the nine-colored light disappeared, they had completely left the cyan cloud state. Brother Mu, Ye and you have a good conversation. At this moment, Qing Xiantian appeared beside Mu Yunzhen and said in a low voice. Mu Yunzhen laughed, Miss Bai is not bad. Although I don't know why you treated her like that, I believe you've already regretted it. However, you'll eventually miss out on such a good girl. You will regret it for the rest of your life. There were some things that Mu Yunzhen didn't say, but he knew that Bai Ye was telling the truth. He knew that the truth might be even crueler, even though he couldn't find anything. You're so arrogant. Qing Suanation's expression changed. Mu Yunzhen had already turned around and left. He didn't want to say another word to this kind of sanctimonious scum. However, he was right. Qing Xiantian had already regretted it. If I didn't force her, she wouldn't have achieved what she has today. Don't worry, Xianying will get it. Qing Xiantian muttered in a low voice. He did not regret forcing Shiroya. What he regretted was that he did not prepare the medicine to erase Shiroya's memory from the beginning and immediately feed it to her when she awakened the inheritance. However, even if Qing Xian Heaven was prepared, the reborn White Knight would not let him succeed. This was an endless loop. As long as Qing Xiantian forced the original White Knight to his death, he would be destined to get nothing. It was a pity that Qing Xian Heaven would never understand. White Knight and the others had already arrived at the periphery of the ultimate selection field with a whoosh under the transmission array. We're here, so fast. As expectia or mi des transportation nyo or mi anasi. RNE teleportation formation is so useful. It was their first time taking a teleportation array, so many of the young people in Tong City were very excited. Even Gu Changhe was so excited that he seemed to be a little dizzy. Other than those from Tong City, the rest of you should gather here. At this moment, a clear female voice shouted. As soon as he said that, many young men immediately surrounded him according to the instructions. It didn't take long for the young people of Tong City to be isolated again. What's going on? What's going on? After being continuously isolated, the young people of Tong City started to panic. This time, everyone subconsciously looked at Bai Ye and Gu Changhe. After all, the two of them were their vice commander. Let's go, he said. However, Bai Ye did not even care about them. He only cared about leading the group of people from Tong City and started working. Hold on. The female leader who had spoken stopped him. But would White Knight care about her? Of course not, so Shiroya continued walking. Let's go, he said. Gu Changhe was Bai Ye's follower, so he ignored the person who spoke. However, at this moment, there were quite a few people who flew in front of White Knight and the others. The leader of the group was a young man in his mid-twenties who was dressed in navy blue. He shouted impolitely, "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear the Qing clan's fourth young miss talking to you? You're so arrogant." Gu Changhe was indignant and wanted to refute. "You're White Knight, right?" However, that person spoke first. Then, a woman in a flawless white dress with a faint fragrance floated out and flew to the front of the crowd. Chapter 59, Chapter 59, was his brain caught between the door. Chapter 59, was his brain caught between the door. When her dress that represented white lotus petals settled, Baya, who had been called out, fixed his eyes on it and saw a white lotus flower with a thin veil covering its face. Oh no, a young woman. Then, without waiting for Baya's reply, the other party used a superior attitude, looked at Baya, and said, I was wondering who my brother was fascinated by, but it's actually a little girl who still reeks of her mother's milk. Hearing this, and thinking back to how she had addressed the fourth young miss of the Qing family, Baya instantly knew that this white lotus was Qing Suanation's younger sister. In Baya's memory, Qing Xiantian did have a sister called Qing Xianying. She seemed to be 4 years younger than Qing Xiantian and was 18 years old this year. It was said that she had a good talent for cultivation. However, this personality of his. Baya's lips curved into a smile. He turned to Gu Changhe and asked. Changhe, does it smell good? It's fragrant. Gu Changhe didn't lie, so he nodded honestly. Remember, this is the taste of a pretentious white lotus. Don't marry a wife with this taste in the future. She's a jinx. White Knight said earnestly. Impudent. Some of Qing Xianying's supporters at the scene immediately reproached her. Little sister Ying Er, let me teach this arrogant girl a lesson. Some even volunteered to teach Baya a lesson on behalf of Qing Xianying. Yes, and there were quite a few of them. When Gu Changhe and the other young men from Tong City heard this, they subconsciously looked at their death-seeking brothers as if they were looking at dead people. He dared to challenge Baya? These people's brains must have been squeezed between the cracks of the door. Be quiet, we have important things to do from today on, Qing Xianying interrupted. We shouldn't delay our important things for such a vulgar village woman. Little sister Ying Er is right. Younger sister Ying Er is so magnanimous. This is the demeanor of a lady from a big family. It is indeed not something that a village girl can compare to. It is really vulgar. It's Yingluo. A large group of Qing Xianying's brainless fans immediately started to praise her, making Baya want to roll her eyes. But just as she was about to leave impatiently, Qing Xianying said, this time, the Qing family has found some clues in the imperial city. As for what clues they are, do you know why we can rank first in the young men's ranking of the 9 states every year? Because of these clues. Someone asked immediately. Not bad. Qing Xianying nodded proudly, therefore, this time, we are confident that we can hunt for a rich amount of spiritual herbs and even find a crystal mine. What? Really? At that moment, everyone present, including the young man from Tong City, exclaimed in shock from the bottom of their hearts. No one had expected Qing Xianying to bring such good news. Of course. Qing Xianying was even more proud when she saw everyone's surprised expression. In addition, Qing Xianying changed the topic and looked at Baya and the others, you Tong City disciples can come with me if you want. As soon as she finished speaking, Baya could immediately hear many of the young men from Tong City behind her taking in deep breaths in excitement. After all, this was definitely a huge temptation. But, Qing Xianying suddenly raised her voice, you can only take 20% of the total harvest. The remaining 80% will be given to the participants at the other 4 screening points. And she can't follow us. Qing Xian raised her finger, which was like a white lotus, and pointed it at Baya, who was leading the young men from Tong City. Qing Xianying's goal was obvious, she wanted to isolate Baya. Let White Knight fight alone. In this way, some of Qing Xianying's or the Qing family's arrangements could be realized without any obstacles. Part 1 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.